Basketball scientist, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Eyeing the Kings for Money. The Lakers won the first game after Kobe's absence at home, which made the fans have too high expectations for the team. They really thought that the current Lakers could rely on Keion's tactics and the existing lineup to maintain their performance. Ideals are full, but reality is skinny. In the back-to-back away games against the Sacramento Kings, the Lakers could not withstand the Kings' offense. The conflict between Chris Webber and Teeter is already very deep. The two did not even communicate much during the game, but the Kings' point guard Bibby took on more organizational tasks and balanced the ball rights of the two on the court. The Kings also have Mobley, Brad Miller, and Bobby Jackson. Their book strength is still very strong. On the other hand, the Lakers' outside players have a bad shooting feel. Butler has an obvious advantage against PJ and should have caused a certain blow to the opponent on the offensive end, but the Kings' timely double teaming exposed Butler's one-track mind. Either he had to go up against two people's defense, or he didn't have Kobe's life, but he had Kobe's disease. Or the random passing of the ball easily made it easy for the Kings' defensive rotation to be in place. Brave but not wise. This word is the most appropriate to describe Butler. The offense was blocked, and the defense was broken. The Lakers were always behind by double digits since the second quarter, and finally lost to the Kings 87-104, missing out on a 3-game winning streak again. 27-15. Never. The flag you gave me is really a curse. After returning to the hotel, Keion called Wang Lifan and complained. Since Wang Lifan said there will be rewards for 3 consecutive wins, Keion has not won 3 consecutive games so far. Keion, you screwed me so badly. Before Wang Lifan had time to speak, Cheyenne Fusson's voice suddenly came out, full of resentment. Heeb, how did I screw you? Keion was a little surprised that the two were still together so late, but between best friends, is it normal to sleep in the same bedroom? The video of you touching Heeb's head the day before yesterday went viral in Taiwan. People are saying that you two are dating. Wang Lifan said cheerfully. As a boyfriend, he didn't seem angry at all. When did I touch Heeb's head? Keion himself couldn't remember. Online, there are pictures. There is the truth. Heeb gritted her teeth and said, this is the first scandal since her debut. Keion immediately turned on the computer and typed in his and Heeb's names. Sure enough, a lot of news and videos with pictures popped up. Keion and Cheyenne Fusson staged an intimate head-touching, suspected love affair exposed straight couple. Heeb secretly loves Keion and goes to Los Angeles to support her lover, the cutest height difference. On the interaction between the genius young Marshall and the girl idol, this title made Keion a little confused. Although he is not an artist and doesn't care about popularity, the facts must be clarified. It's impossible for others to think that he is cheating. If he is photographed with Wang Lifan in the future, you should be able to clarify this matter, right? Keion's tone became timid because he really caused trouble for the other party. What else? Why don't you fly to Taiwan and explain? Heeb said unhappily. Her first time was given to a basketball coach. Heeb felt so wronged. Wang Lifan tried to comfort her, and Keion repeatedly apologized for his disrespectful behavior, and finally comforted Heeb. After a day of rest, the Lakers returned to their home court and welcomed the visiting New Jersey Nets. The second meeting of the season, the Nets are no longer the same as before. At the beginning of the season, due to the loss of Kenyon Martin by the Nuggets, the Nets' inside strength declined significantly, and the results in the first half were basically aimed at competing for the number 1 pick. However, a deal gave the Nets a new lease of life. The team used Alonzo Mourning, Aaron Williams, Eric Williams and 2 first-round picks to trade Vince Carter from the Raptors, directly forming the league's strongest outside trident. Carter's joining has solved the Nets' dilemma of no one scoring to the greatest extent. After finally escaping from the predicament of the Raptors, Carter played an MVP-level performance after joining the Nets, averaging 27.6 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game, slashing and killing all the way, helping the Nets sprint to the playoffs. After Carter joined the team also played a wave of 9 wins and 3 losses, helping the Nets catch up from 13th in the Eastern Conference to 10th in the Eastern Conference. If they continue to maintain this winning rate, the playoffs are really not out of reach. In the first match between the two teams this season, the Lakers picked up the heads of the Nets, who were full of wounded soldiers and had an incomplete lineup, and easily defeated their opponents. There is a cycle of fate, and this time the Nets took back the benefits and faced the Lakers, who were missing Kobe and Anderson. Killian strengthened the rotation and gave the substitutes more opportunities to perform, hoping that they can play a role by running and gunning and pressing the whole court to score. Unfortunately, Walton and Barnes were not in good shooting condition and missed shots frequently. Cook could only shoot open 3-pointers. Without anyone to open up space for him, it was difficult for him to do anything. On the Nets side, Carter and Jefferson, with Kidd's connection, scored 56 points together, crushing the Lakers' wings and helping the team lead by 19 points in the first 3 quarters. In the last quarter, Killian made a desperate move and once again used a lineup of 1 big and 4 small players to make a breakthrough. The fast-paced offense and defense was exactly what Kidd wanted, but the Lakers, with House, Butler, and Odom hitting 3 3-pointers in a row, once narrowed the gap to 11 points. At the critical moment, it was Kidd who stood up. He first forced Atkins to foul in the low post, and then received a pass from Carter on the outside and hit a 3-pointer. It directly ended the suspense of the game 88-102. The Lakers lost at home and suffered 2 consecutive losses, 27-16. After 2 consecutive losses, the Lakers' record was also caught up by the Rockets behind them, and the 5th place in the Western Conference was in jeopardy. After Kobe was injured, Killian fell into the embarrassment of no one available. In these few games, either Butler was put in the shooting guard position, or Atkins and Eddie House's double 180 backcourt combination was used. Life was so difficult. After the game with the Nets, Killian found Kupchak again and asked him to help him strengthen the lineup. "Mitch, I think we really need to adjust the team's lineup while it's still not too late. There is really no suitable substitute for the team's number 2 position," Killian said to Kupchak. "The only substitute for the team shooting guard position is Vujasic, and his defense is equivalent to nothing. Even if Killian focuses on offense and ignores defense, he dare not use him." "Okay, dear, if you have the right person, I'm willing to try my best to satisfy you. The premise is not to touch the core players of the team and the future first round picks." Kupchak's tone softened a little, meaning that the second round picks can be included in the transaction. "Thank you," Killian complained in his heart. There are several players in the team, such as Walton, Mim, and Terry Brown, who Killian really doesn't like to use. Keeping them in the team will also depreciate. It is better to send them out while there is still trading value. Most of the people Killian wants can be used and even bring some surprises. This is why Kupchak is willing to support him to make some fine-tuning. Deshaun Stevenson of the Magic, Kevin Martin of the Kings, and Delfino of the Pistons. You try to talk to them. I don't think the transaction is very difficult. Killian gave 3 names, and the requirements have been very low. Among these 3 people, only Stevenson is a main rotation player in the Magic, and Kevin Martin and Delfino are watching the water dispenser in their respective teams. Although they are both in the rookie contract period, the Lakers can also use Walton, who is in the rookie contract period, to make a deal, right? The Kings again. Kimmy, if you were coaching the Kings, I really can't imagine. Kupchak joked. Barnes, Weber, Kevin Martin, Killian is really used to staring at the Kings to get the wool. Thank you for your reminder. Maybe one day you can really see me in the capital of California. Killian shrugged and accepted the joke. I'll contact them. I should be able to get at least one. Kupchak habitually sent a satellite to Killian. Killian rolled his eyes. This is already the nth time. Chapter 77. Transaction Negotiation. Hunting rabbits by raking grass. Without Kobe, there are not many teams in the league that are worse than the Lakers in terms of strength. The newly formed Charlotte Bobcats happens to be one of them. Facing the Bobcats at home, the Lakers, who have suffered 2 consecutive losses, cannot afford to lose. Except for the second pick Okafor, all other players of this new league were selected from outside the protection list of each team. Although there are potential newcomers like Gerald Wallace who were released by the Kings, most of the players are water dispensers outside the main rotation of other teams. With limited strength, they are naturally at a disadvantage against the Lakers. The progress of the game is similar to what Kalyan imagined. The game was very open. The Bobcats and the Lakers played against each other. Gerald Wallace showed his all-round skills in this rhythm of offense and defense conversion. He can score, grab rebounds, chase blocks, and send assists. The second pick Okafor also showed his potential in the game. Unlike other promising inside players, he did not have any outstanding performance on the offensive end, but made some contributions on the defensive end. However, the obvious weakness of this Bobcats team is the lack of offense and outside shooting ability. In the whole game, the Bobcats took 14 shots from the outside and only hit 3 balls, which became their Achilles heel. The Lakers shrank their defense in the second half of the game, and Brad Knight and Gerald Wallace could only be anxious on the outside when they got the ball. In comparison, the Lakers' offense seemed very methodical and the routines were very skillful. This is also the immediate change that Kalyan brought to this Lakers team. With or without Kobe, the last operator, the team's tactics can be played. Unless you have a good inside defense player of the level of Duncan, Garnett, and Ben Wallace, it is really not easy to limit the Lakers' various offenses. It is hard to say whether Okafor has this potential, at least he can't do it now. Butler and Odom both scored 20 plus, helping the Lakers beat the Bobcats 106-91 at home, and ending their 2-game losing streak, 28-16. Since the Rockets lost to the Mavericks in the Texas Civil War, the Lakers continued to hold the 5th place in the West. It was after this game that the NBA announced the All-Star starters in the East and West this season. Yao Ming, the little giant from China, was once again elected the All-Star vote king. With the entire China as a vote bank, Yao Ming's vote power is invincible. Even if Jordan makes a third comeback, don't think about snatching the vote king from him. Unlike the controversial previous 2 seasons, when he overpowered O'Neal to become the starter, Yao Ming, who has grown further this season, has become the #1 center in the West. Even if the vote power factor is not considered, he should be a well-deserved all-star starter. The handsome incident had a devastating impact on Kobe's image, but since the new season, Kobe's performance has been quite outstanding, which has brought back a lot of popularity for him. In addition, Kalyan's presence also brought Kobe a certain popularity blessing in China, and Kobe successfully became an all-star starter. McGrady, Duncan, and Garnett occupied the other 3 starting seats in the Western All-Star. In the East, Shaquille O'Neal, who traveled to Miami, returned to the starting lineup after 2 years away from the All-Star game. Grant Hill, who was seriously injured, also returned after many years. The remaining 3 positions are James, Iverson, and Carter. The 4 major points gathered in the starting lineup to fight against each other. Yao and Shaq dueled. It was the first All-Star game trip for the Little Emperor James. This Denver All-Star game will definitely be a classic in the memory of fans in the future. Kalyan proposed 3 candidates to strengthen the team's second position. Kupchak contacted the Magic, Kings and Pistons, based on the principle of micromanagement. The Magic, who took the lead, responded very straightforwardly and did not consider trading Stevenson for the time being. Last season, they had been playing badly for a season to compete for the #1 pick, and they traded McGrady for immediate combat power. Hill has recovered. This season, the Magic's intention is to strive to enter the playoffs. After sending Mobley away, the team needs Stevenson's contribution at the second position and is not interested in the chips that the Lakers can provide. The Kings unexpectedly valued Kevin Martin. Unlike Barnes, who was easily let go to the Lakers, Kevin Martin, who has a high basketball IQ, flexible off-ball movement, and excellent shooting skills, is very much to Edelman's liking. Although he cannot be reused for the time being because he is too thin, he has a place for Kevin Martin in Edelman's future plans. In addition to the relationship between the 2 teams as competitors, the Kings' asking price for Kevin Martin is very high. Kupchak cursed directly after hanging up the phone. On the contrary, it was the Pistons, the opponent in the finals last season, who sincerely put forward their asking price. The Lakers' backup center Chris Mim, Oka left the team due to salary issues, and the Wallace brothers lost an extremely reliable inside substitute. Veteran Mike Dias is not enough, and the parallel second pick Milicic did not get the favor of head coach Larry Brown, and became a victory cigar. Joe Dumas has been considering filling the team's inside line. This asking price hit a very uncomfortable point for Kupchak, because he knew that Kalyan would definitely agree to this asking price. Under Kalyan's rule, Mim's playing time ranked 6th among the team's inside players, less than Odom, Anderson, Diop, Grant, and Cook. Kalyan even often used a small lineup and let Barnes play as a power forward. From this perspective, Kalyan absolutely supported sending away Mim, who he didn't use much, in exchange for Delfino, who could strengthen the team's outside line. But as a general manager, sometimes you need to plan ahead. The team has only 3 serious centers, Anderson, Diop, and Mim. Sometimes against inside players like O'Neal, Duncan, and Yao Ming, the 3 of them are not enough to play in a round-robin battle. If you send away Mim, who has an obvious role, won't the team have no choice but to surrender when facing these teams? Kupchak hesitated again and again, and kicked the ball to Kalyan. The Pistons are asking for Chris Mim. Do you think we need to send Chris away for Delfino? It's not another Chris. What's the problem? Kalyan said very simply. What's the point of hoarding so many inside players? Can the Lakers meet the Heat in the playoffs, or can they meet the Rockets in the playoffs? If the team can meet the Heat in the playoffs this season, Kalyan will be happy to lose 0:4, which means that he will lead this Lakers team into the finals. The reality is that the team can't even say that there is no worry in the playoffs now. If they really make it to the playoffs as a team in the lower half, they will be underdogs against anyone, so why care if the opponent is the Spurs? With Mim, can the Lakers beat the Suns and Mavericks? Okay. Kupchak was waiting for Kalyan to say this. I'll contact Joe Dumas and prepare the transaction documents. Wait a minute. Kalyan stopped Kupchak, hesitated for a moment, and added, if you make sure this deal goes through, try to ask Milicic. Kupchak looked at Kalyan, feeling a little embarrassed. Although he is a fake, there is a saying that rookies should be watched for 3 years, and he is still the second pick. How can the Pistons give up on him so easily? What if he fails to perform well? Wouldn't it be a slap in the face? The Pistons now have 2 aces, and there is McDias on the bench. If Chris leaves, how many opportunities do you think Darko Milicic will have? Kalyan explained. Let me ask. Chapter 78, Kill the Wolf. Saving Milicic is something that many competitive writers like to do after they travel through time and become head coaches of NBA teams. Everyone attributes all of Milicic's problems to Larry Brown's suppression of him and believes that he has talents no less than Nowitzki and Jarkic. If he can get love and protection in the early stages of his career, his achievements will definitely be more than that. The reason why Kalyan proposed to trade Milicic was not because he was influenced by these novels, thinking that he could get an all-star by feeding him 2 mouthfuls of chicken soup. Instead, he knew that Milicic's use value was greater than his trading value. This player who is about to be squeezed into the team's 5th inside line by Mim will definitely be better than Mim, as long as he can get playing time. Trading can enhance the strength of the team. As for how much potential he can develop after joining the team, and how to design tactics for him to help him play, these issues are not within Kalyan's consideration for the time being. To put it bluntly, he is still just an acting coach who has not been formally promoted. God knows what the formalization conditions set by Jerry Buss are for him. Maybe he will not be in the Lakers next season. Following Kalyan's suggestion, Kupchak proposed to Joe Dumas the idea of including Milicic in the deal. Joe Dumas was a little surprised and immediately called Larry Brown to discuss it. It's strange to say that the 2 general managers kept asking for the opinions of their head coaches when negotiating the deal. Generally speaking, most head coaches in the league don't have this kind of face. Larry Brown has no feelings for Milicic, and everyone on earth knows this. With his approval, Joe Dumas called Kupchak to make an offer, Chris Mim plus Matt Barnes plus the 2005 first round pick. After all, it's the 2nd pick in the year, and Milicic's talent is obvious to the blind. Joe Dumas himself felt a little sorry for Milicic's miserable situation. but there is no way. Larry Brown led the team to win the championship. There is no greater credit than this. What's the big deal about wasting a second pick? If other trading targets touch the Lakers draft pick, Kupchak would definitely refuse directly. But Kupchak hesitated about Milicic, so much so that, after hanging up the phone, he reported it to Jerry Buss. "Mickey, do you think Kami can train Darko Milicic?" Jerry Buss asked after a moment of silence. "A more practical question is, can we select a player with more potential than Milicic in the middle and late stages of this year's draft?" Kupchak put forward his own opinion. Milicic is only 19 years old now, and will only be 20 years old in this year's draft, which is younger than 90% of rookies. He has great potential, and has performed well in the national team competition, proving that if he is given a chance, he still has a chance to play. In addition to the high probability of a first round pick in the middle and late stages, there is only Barnes, which is not a heavy bargaining chip for the Lakers. However, what Kupchak did not expect was that after Kellyan learned of the news, he showed very obvious resistance. He did not care about the first round pick sent by the Lakers in the trade, but was unwilling to send away Matt Barnes, who he brought to the Lakers himself. "Matt is very important to me. He is not only a substitute number 3 player, but more importantly, when I choose a big 4 small formation, Matt can defend the opponent's number 4 position, which is very helpful for us to play faster on the offensive end." Kellyan clearly opposed sending Barnes away, and the deal was finally fixed as Chris Mim and Delfino swap. For the victory cigar, there will be less playing time in the future. The deal was completed, but Delfino did not have the opportunity to play in the Lakers away game against the Supersonics. The two teams played 1:1 in the first 2 regular season encounters, plus a victory in the preseason, which at least proved that the Lakers were not afraid of the 10,000 arrows of the Supersonics when they were at full health. This is also the reason why Kellyan proposed catching the Supersonics after Kobe was injured, and the team had basically no hope of impacting the upper half of the Western Conference. Compared with Ox and Horse Day, the Supersonics are a little easier to play. However, not being afraid at full health does not mean that you can beat the Supersonics even with residual health. In the first 3 quarters, under Kellyan's dispatch, the two sides were still able to compete. The Lakers took advantage of Radmanovic's slow movement speed, and House and Atkins used pick and rolls to create space, using the unparalleled arrow formation to fight against the unparalleled arrow formation. The Lakers didn't suffer any major losses. However, when the game came to the 4th quarter, the Lakers changed their small ball tactics, but there was a loophole. Or it was not a loophole, but the Sonics suddenly increased the defensive intensity and caught the Lakers off guard. Ray Allen became the biggest contributor to the Sonics' victory. He relied on screens to get rid of the ball and shot, and made 2 priceless 3-pointers in the last quarter. On the other hand, the Lakers lacked someone who stood up at the critical moment. Butler was responsible for shooting the key ball in the final stage, and missed the basket twice in a row. The Lakers lost the game, but they were not completely without highlights. Facing the top 3 teams in the West, the team persisted until the 4th quarter. For most of the game, the two sides were evenly matched. 28-17. The team's game performance has always been good, which is why the team's winning rate has declined since Kellyan took over the Lakers, but the media and fans have not been too harsh on him. He has a Lakers team without Kobe and Anderson. In many games, he has done everything he can. It is really not his fault that he lacks soldiers and generals. Coming from the Pistons to the Lakers, Delfino feels like he has come from hell to heaven. This is not only a description of the gap between the two cities of Detroit and Los Angeles, but also a description of Delfino's own situation. In his first game with the Lakers, he was placed in the team's starting lineup against the Timberwolves at home. The Lakers have new players, while the Timberwolves have lost their main small forward Sproul, which has narrowed the gap in strength between the two sides. However, facing the Timberwolves, who have all-star center Garnett, the fans are still prepared for the inside to be blown up. Kellyan arranged a tactic in which Odom held the ball at the top of the arc, Delfino and Atkins ran outside, and Butler went around the screen and played one-on-one. As a result, the Timberwolves used a 122 zone defense to block the Lakers offense. Garnett played a huge role on the defensive end. Butler's touch was cold, and he missed many strong shots. Odom also couldn't throw the ball in from the outside. The performance of the two main attacking points in this game was disappointing. Fortunately, the Timberwolves offense was also not smooth. Butler didn't blow up Zerbiak on the offensive end, but his defensive performance was not bad. Castle, the second in command of the Timberwolves, fell out with the team because of contract issues and had problems with his playing attitude. Only Garnett was left to support the team, and the Lakers' defensive focus was also placed on the last MVP. The Lakers fell behind 23-27 in the first quarter. In the second quarter, the Timberwolves still used a zone defense strategy. Garnett's defense zone was very large, and he was responsible for half of the three-point line alone, which effectively limited the Lakers' offense. The Lakers also defended the Timberwolves. Garnett is a superstar who has a hard time continuously producing high output, and the Lakers' defense forces him to play more singles on the offensive end and do things he doesn't like. The Timberwolves have always lacked the ability to attack from the low post, even when the team made it to the Western Conference Finals last season. Garnett's main scoring method is actually to shake his shoulders and turn around to shoot, using his height and wingspan to create shooting space. Putting aside the bug of Nowitzki, combined with production and efficiency, Garnett's mid-range is definitely the first tier at the power forward position, and he can even keep the top 5 and fight for the top 3, but once his touch is not good, it is difficult for him to score. He is not lethal enough in the restricted area, and his ability to make free throws is less than that of the same level of inside players. The Lakers' positional warfare offense was restricted by Garnett, but they took advantage of their mobility, grabbed the rebound and immediately counterattacked. At least 3 people were fast, so Garnett lost one thing while focusing on the other. The Lakers scored 30-22 in a single quarter and ended the first half with a 4-point lead of 53-49. The Timberwolves have fallen so obviously from the first place in the Western Conference last season to the 8th place in the Western Conference this season. It is definitely not just the aging of Castle and Sproul, but the players' spirit is also wrong. Castle and Sproul have their own ulterior motives because of contract issues. Zerbiak and Hudson clamored to play as the main force when they were substitutes, but their performance was average when they played as the main force. Garnett did not play a corresponding leadership role at this time and could only play alone on the court. In the second half of the game, Killian designed a pass and run tactic specifically for the team's outside shooters. Through 3-pointers, he broke the Timberwolves' joint defense. The Timberwolves' defense line loosened, and the Lakers' offense began to open up the situation. This time, Butler and Odom were alive. Under the siege, Garnett was alone and missed consecutive mid-range shots, watching the Lakers take away the victory. The final score was 108-92, with the Lakers defeating the Wolves at home, 29-17. Chapter 79 All-Star Weekend. Delfino also entered the NBA from the European basketball system. He understood and implemented Killian's tactical ideas better than other NBA players. His joining was a timely supplement for the Lakers, which lost Kobe. He played 28 minutes per game, scored 9 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 1.8 assists, which was 3 times the data of the Pistons. This is the data Delfino handed in the first 7 games after joining the Lakers. This performance is almost up to the qualified level of the league's starting shooting guard. More importantly, his joining was a great help to the team. In the 7 games he participated in, the Lakers defeated the Timberwolves, Trailblazers, Bucks, and Bulls successively, and survived until Kobe's return with a record of 6 wins and 6 losses and a winning rate of 50%. 32-20. Although in today's NBA, big players are much more valuable than backcourt players, but the media and fans still highly evaluated this transaction by trading a meme who sat on the bench for a Delfino who was able to fight and improved the team's fighting power. Within the scope of his authority, Killian's several micromanagements have achieved obvious results, and the Lakers' internal management also affirmed Killian's contribution at the uniform group meeting. During Kobe's injury, the Lakers' ranking was surpassed by the Rockets, and the gap with the Kings, Grizzlies, and Timberwolves behind them was also very close, but at least they remained in the ranks of playoff teams, which was a result that the management felt was natural, but Killian gave himself a high score. Kobe returned after the All-Star game, and the Lakers' combat effectiveness was guaranteed. At least it was not a problem to maintain a place in the Western Conference playoffs. The All-Star game is a grand event for star players and fans, but for Kellyan, who has been traveling all over the country for half a year, it is an opportunity to recover in the middle of the season. Before becoming the head coach, he had done enough psychological preparation. The work was not easy at all, and the pressure was not a little bit. When he officially took office, he still underestimated the difficulty of being the head coach of an NBA team, especially the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Many times, when he left the training hall, he was cursing, "Never mind, let's talk about it tomorrow." When he got home in the evening, had dinner and took a shower, and lay on the sofa, his mind could not help but start to deduce all kinds of situations that might occur in the next day's game. Over and over again, time and time again, it can even be said that this month, he has learned more than the experience of being an assistant coach in the past 2 years. Fortunately, during the All-Star game, he can have a good rest. At the same time, sort yourself out and digest what he has learned recently. At noon, Kellyan went to the school to date Wang Lifan and gave him a carefully prepared gift, a pair of beautiful ice skates. The last time Wang Lifan went to Staples to watch a game, he wandered around the mall below after the game and walked around the skating rink twice. Kellyan guessed that Wang Lifan wanted to try skating, so he went to buy a pair of couples. If you want to select a sport suitable for couples to do together, skating must be at the top of the list, especially when your girlfriend is not very skilled. Taking her to the skating rink to skate hand in hand will greatly increase your charm value. After all, you are her only support at this time. After buying the skates, it was natural to find a place to show off my skills. However, Wang Lifan was wearing a skirt today, which was not suitable for skating, so she could only do something else. "If you're not hungry, let's go shopping first," Kellyan suggested. "Shopping?" Wang Lifan perked up and stared at Kellyan with interest. "I didn't expect that a boy like you also likes shopping." Kellyan smiled and said, "I'm accompanying you. What boyfriend doesn't accompany his girlfriend shopping?" Wang Lifan waved his hands and giggled. "I'm not a girl who needs you to spend time to accommodate me, and what advice can you give me on my shopping?" Kellyan spread his hands like a bachelor. "You can give me advice. You don't want to go shopping, but I do." Wang Lifan immediately became excited. His eyes widened, as if they were shining. "You want to shop? What do you want to buy?" "I want to buy a never to take home. Is that okay?" "Sure." Wang Lifan responded happily, stretching out his white and slender hands and spreading them in front of Kellyan. "Wang Lifan's price is 100 billion. Give me the money." Kellyan rolled his eyes. "Zimbabwe dollar. This is the United States. Of course it's US dollars." Wang Lifan smiled very proudly. "She has a bright appearance, and when she smiles like this, she looks like a lively little fox." Kellyan deliberately looked it up and down. "It's too expensive. Give me a discount." Wang Lifan laughed and said, "I'll hit you on the head." He really looked like he was going to throw the ice skate at him. "Even if the deal doesn't work out, we can still be friends. Can we pay in installments?" Kellyan suggested again. Wang Lifan held back his laughter and shook his head firmly. "No, pay it in one lump sum. I can't afford it. I won't buy it," Kellyan said, waving his hand and walking towards the nest. Wang Lifan followed behind Kellyan, laughing happily, dancing, and seemed to be flying. This boyfriend of hers was really interesting. When they entered the shopping mode, the girls took charge of everything. Kellyan followed Wang Lifan step by step, mainly responsible for trying on clothes and carrying bags. Kellyan has a good figure, thin and tall, and looks good in any clothes. Even American netizens think he is the most handsome among the coaches. It's normal for him to be handsome, because the other coaches are all old men. Kellyan enjoyed a rare private time, and the All-Star game was in full swing in Denver. In addition to the players selected to enter the NBA, there were more celebrities in the cultural and sports circles who appeared off the court, and the most eye-catching one was Phil Jackson, the Zen Master. The Zen Master appeared in the training hall of the All-Star team and had exchanges with O'Neal, McGrady, Yao Ming and others, which made people look forward to his coming out to coach. With 9 championship rings and being a free man, there are many teams eyeing this champion coach. However, the Zen master showed a firm attitude. I need to rest, and I don't consider coming out. Regarding returning to the NBA, Phil Jackson has always maintained an ambiguous attitude. If you say you don't plan to come out to coach, then you can just issue a retirement statement and settle it with a spit. No. Instead, he often wanders on the edge of the topic. Whenever there is a rumor of a coaching change in any team, the Zen master can always be involved. He didn't respond at the first time. He always waits until things are almost settled before speaking out. Phil Jackson's approach has put a lot of pressure on some of his peers. This is also the reason why many coaches don't respect Phil Jackson that much, because respect itself is mutual. You are pretending here, but others are suffering. As a time traveler, Kellyanne knows what Phil Jackson is thinking. He is still thinking about the position of head coach of the Lakers. Even according to the course of history, after this season, under the mediation of Jerry Buss, he will re-enter the Lakers and quickly ease the relationship with Kobe, helping the Lakers regain competitiveness. Who would believe you if you say that he is not keeping a low profile and accumulating strength for a breakthrough? Kellyanne doesn't know what kind of results he has to achieve to surpass this 9-time champion coach in the eyes of the Lakers management, so he simply doesn't think about it. There will always be a way when the car reaches the mountain. As long as there are results as a foundation, even if he is really squeezed out by Phil Jackson, Kellyanne will not worry about not finding a job. The Hawks have already invited him. This chapter is difficult to write. Sorry for posting it late. Chapter 80, Vigorous and Courageous. Since no local star players were selected for the All-Star game, there were no special featured players in this Denver All-Star game, and the performances of the stars were more modest and relaxed. Everyone was more selfless, and this All-Star game became the only All-Star game in the past 24 years where no player scored more than 20 points. Allen Iverson, who rarely had double-digit assists in the regular season, played a point guard game in this game. In addition to his personal offense, he sent out 12 assists, scored 15 points and 12 assists, and led the Eastern All-Star team to beat the Western All-Star team 122-115, ending the Western All-Star team's 4-game winning streak. Due to injuries, Kobe only played for 16 minutes, made 2 of 3 shots, and scored 4 points. Apart from that, he did not perform much. For this, Kellyanne called D'Antoni to express his gratitude. You've done a good job in the Lakers, Kimmy. After chatting, D'Antoni also congratulated Kellyanne. No matter what the Lakers management thinks, at least in the industry, the coaching circle recognizes Kellyanne's ability. Facts have proved that my decision to come to the Lakers is still right. Kellyanne was also a little proud. After Kobe's comeback, he should have survived the most difficult period. After the All-Star game, he can dispatch the team more easily. I hope we have the opportunity to compete with each other when we have similar resources this season. The Suns have already defeated the Lakers twice, but D'Antoni does not think that he has won. Kellyanne. He still admits the advantage of the team's hoop. Then let's go to the playoffs, preferably the Western Conference Finals. Kellyanne's arrogant statement was heard from the other side. I also hope to meet the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. D'Antoni couldn't ask for it. While Kellyanne and D'Antoni were talking, there was movement in the living room. It should be Chen Shijin who came back, and Kellyanne didn't think much about it. Unexpectedly, a few seconds later, Chen Shijin came and knocked on the door. Kimmy, is it convenient for us to chat? Wait a minute, Kellyanne shouted. After all, he was his landlord, and he still had to deal with him. He decisively said hello to D'Antoni, hung up the phone, and then walked out of the door. What's wrong? Kellyanne asked when he saw Chen Shijin's decadent look. Kimmy, are you considering buying this house? Chen Shijin looked up at Kellyanne and said seriously. Huh? Kellyanne was a little confused. What the hell? Why did he recommend me to buy a house for no reason? Because he is the head coach of the Lakers? I need money to turn around now, Chen Shijin explained. Don't panic. Tell me what's going on. Seeing that Chen Shijin didn't speak, Kellyanne tried. Is YouTube having problems? Chen Shijin looked at Kellyanne, nodded, and then began to introduce his house again. Okay, I've lived here for so long. Don't I know how good this house is? Kellyanne stopped Chen Shijin from talking and asked, how much do you want? A lot. Chen Shijin planned for a while. About $1 million. US dollars? Kellyan's eyes widened. No wonder Chen Shijin wanted to sell the house directly. Who would be willing to lend someone $1 million if they were not related to him? I have found an angel investor. They are willing to provide us with an investment of $500,000. If you are willing, you can pay $500,000 first. Chen Shijin also felt that $1 million was too exaggerated. They were all workers who could easily take out $1 million in cash. Angel investment? You are giving them money to make money. Kellyan was a little anxious when he heard that other investors were going to invest in YouTube. This was a good thing with a lot of money, so how could it be cheap for others? How about this? I can find a way to get you $700,000 at most. Is it enough for you to solve the problem? How can I take your money for free? The friendship between the two people was not so close. Kellyan dared to give it to Chen Shijin, but he didn't dare to take it. I'd better transfer the house to you. I'm not sure how long I will stay in Los Angeles. Kellyan accidentally revealed his thoughts. If you really feel that you need something as a guarantee, then you can mortgage your YouTube shares to me and redeem them at the original price when you make money. I'm not sure whether YouTube can succeed. If this project fails, you will still lose everything. Chen Shijin still couldn't bear to drag Kellyan into the water. Kellyan wanted to do 20th and build a memorial archway. He didn't want to expose his intention of asking for shares too obviously. Chen Shijin was a real gentleman and didn't want to pit Kellyan with a project that he was not sure would succeed. YouTube will definitely be successful. Kellyan encouraged. Angel investors are already optimistic about this project. What do you have to worry about? There are so many examples of angel investors failing in their investments. Only a few succeed. I believe in my own vision, so I'll just invest. In this way, if I lose, it's my own money. Kellyan said. This. Chen Shijin understood what Kellyan meant, but still hesitated. Unless you don't want me to eat soup behind you. Kellyan shrugged and said self-deprecatingly. Okay. Kumi, I respect you. I will run YouTube quickly and make your investment pay off quickly. Chen Shijin said with a firm face. I have about $430,000 invested in stocks. I estimate that if I sell it tomorrow, it will be credited to my account the day after tomorrow. I can apply for an advance salary of more than $300,000 from the team. Kellyan can only get $750,000 at most, and the rest will have to be borrowed by someone with facial recognition. Seeing that Kellyan was willing to give up his high quality stocks and even borrow money from others in order to support his project, Chen Shijin was quite moved and made up his mind to make YouTube a success. He advanced the salary from February to the end of the season to the team and borrowed $300,000 from Tom Janovic. Kellyan raised the money that Chen Shijin needed and transferred it to him, and also obtained 15% of the equity of YouTube. It is much more expensive than the angel investors' $500,000 for 10% of the equity, but it is more or less an investment in friendship. Chen Shijin is destined to be a successful person, and he must be able to do more than just YouTube. With this investment, Kellyan has achieved financial freedom for himself in the future, and the next coaching career is the realization of his own life value. Leaving his name in the history of world basketball is the meaning of Kellyan's time travel, and it is also his life goal. When things are good, people are in high spirits. The Lakers visit Dallas to challenge the Dallas Mavericks. They are full of vigor and vigor. Kellyan is ready to lead the team to compete with the young General Johnson. During Kobe's injury, the Lakers' record declined, and the gap with the Mavericks was widened to 6 games. It is impossible to catch up with the Mavericks in the next third of the season, but the Lakers still have the pressure to ensure a playoff spot. They will definitely fight hard with the Mavericks in this game. After Avery Johnson replaced Old Nelson, the Mavericks' style of play has become much more balanced. Josh Howard has been reused for his excellent defense, but he has been in office for a short time after all. The Mavericks are essentially a team that has always been strong in offense and weak in defense. Kellyan also feels that in the dialogue between the two teams, the team with better offense has a greater chance of winning. Kobe and Anderson have returned, and the Lakers have a complete lineup. Delfino has returned to the bench lineup, and the team's bench strength has also become much stronger. Lakers starting lineup: Atkins, Kobe, Butler, Odom, Anderson. Mavericks starters: Terry, Finley, Howard, Nowitzki, Dampier. Anderson won the jump ball and passed the ball to Butler, and the game began. Odom dribbled the ball outside the 3-point line in the middle and faced Nowitzki. Kobe stood at the left baseline for a while and ran back to the top line. At the same time, Anderson on the right side made an off-ball screen for Butler to help him get rid of Finley. Odom stopped the ball and chose to throw the ball high into the penalty area. There was a mismatch on the court immediately. The person facing Anderson turned out to be Finley. In the penalty area, Finley pushed Anderson, but he didn't expect the latter to turn around very flexibly and easily put the ball into the basket. Kellyan was very excited. He applauded on the sidelines and gave Odom a thumbs up. This pass was very beautiful. After Kellyan trained him for a season to hold the ball at the top of the arc and to assist in off-ball pick and rolls at the corner, Odom's recent performance has improved. During Kobe's absence, he also made great contributions to the team's victory. Mavericks attack. Nowitzki and Terry play pick and roll. Odom switches to defend Terry, blocking Terry's breakthrough route. Terry's passing awareness is not so good, and he has no chance to pass back after forcing to the baseline. At this time, Anderson has come to make up for the defense. Nowitzki receives the ball and leans back, and his left corner jump shot misses. Odom grabs the backcourt rebound and immediately launches a counter-attack. Kobe accelerates straight to get rid of Howard, receives Odom's long pass, jumps up in one step, and dunks the ball with both hands 0-4. After the opening, Howard has been sticking to Kobe, but he has no choice in this fast break opportunity. Mavericks attack. 3 people pull away. Nowitzki and Terry play pick and roll in the middle. Terry did not force the breakthrough this time, but stopped the ball. Kobe went around to prevent Nowitzki from easily receiving the ball. It is a very experienced defense. Terry passed the ball to Finley, who immediately passed it to Josh Howard, who changed direction from 45 degrees to the baseline the moment he received the ball. He was very fast and his movements were perfectly connected. He passed Butler and easily scored a layup 2-4. Chapter 81 Scoring Battle. Atkins took the ball to the front court and passed it to Kobe. Kobe held the ball high with one hand, leaned against Howard to observe the running position of his teammates, and passed it to Butler at 70 degrees on the right. Butler and Anderson got rid of the ball screen, and Dampier's switch defense had problems again. The former received the ball and made a jump shot. Finley couldn't catch up, and the shot went into the net, 2-6. Kobe's selfless performance at the beginning was beyond Kellyan's expectation. However, in the dialogue with the strong team, the team really needed Kobe to mobilize the strength of his teammates and form a 5-on-5 situation in the game. The Mavericks attacked. Terry lobbed the ball to Nowitzki and ran to the right bottom corner. Nowitzki leaned on Odom and turned to the baseline. Odom blocked Nowitzki's breakthrough route again. Nowitzki stepped back with his right foot and made a jump shot 4-6. Atkins brought the ball to the front court and passed it to Odom, who dribbled to the wing and passed it to Kobe, who was in the low post. Kobe received the ball, turned around, and faced Howard. His body suddenly twisted, like a light and strong rattlesnake. Every twist of his body seemed to deceive the person blocking him. Breakthrough? Impossible. At such a close distance, it was impossible. Kobe's twisted body suddenly straightened up, and just like the rattlesnake, he straightened up half of his body at the moment before the attack. The 2 feet that were moving forward suddenly changed. The left foot rotated outward with the toes as the center axis, while the right foot stretched out and turned to the left. Kobe's body began to rotate. He was almost rotating on the spot, but with inertia, his body posture became forward, so the whole movement became extremely strange and beautiful. Just before he hit Howard, Kobe suddenly turned around flexibly, went behind Howard, and faced Nowitzki, who was defending him. Without stopping, he put all his strength and weight into the air. Bang! The basket tilted half to the right, and he groaned in pain. Nowitzki took 2 steps back, trying to ease the impact of the collision, but he still lost his balance and sat on the ground. Kobe used both hands to lift his body up and turned a big circle under the basket with his legs bent. As he was swaying, Anderson and Dampier under the basket gave way and let him down. Kobe's ghostly passing, domineering dunking, and wonderful performance made the players on the Lakers bench couldn't help but stand up and cheer for him. Even Marquis Daniels on the Mavericks bench almost stood up, but fortunately he was pulled back by other teammates. Being blocked is a shame in the eyes of some people, but for Nowitzki, it is a proof of his hard work in defense. He did not rush to fight back on the offensive end. On the contrary, Josh Howard's subsequent handling seemed very irrational. He received the ball in the half court and then rushed to Butler's right side at full speed. His offensive intention was too obvious. Butler quickly moved his body to block Howard outside. Although Howard was leaned against, he still rushed inward. Suddenly, he felt Butler's body loosen up. He was happy and took another step forward, but was blocked by Butler's back foot. He staggered a step, tried to lift the ball up, and jumped to the basket. Pop. The ball was fanned out of the baseline. Howard, who fell to the ground, looked at Anderson's contemptuous eyes and slapped the floor angrily. Josh Howard's physical talent is indeed good. His super long wingspan allows him to form a mismatch when facing many small forwards. It even made Johnson have the idea of supporting him to be the boss and replace Nowitzki, so that the two of them later died together. The Mavericks made free throws from the sideline. Through continuous pick and rolls, Terry received the ball at the baseline and shot from mid-range against Butler's defense, hitting the ball accurately. Butler's defense was in place for this ball, but once Terry found his shooting touch, he was also an unstoppable ruthless character. The game was going on. Led by Nowitzki and Terry, the Mavericks continued to launch a strong offensive against the Lakers. After each loss, the Lakers could always make up the score again with the corresponding cooperation of Kobe and Odom. Wonderful goals were presented to the audience again and again. Both sides were offensive lineups, with loopholes in defense. The visual effect of the offensive and defensive play was better than the Denver All-Star game. In the middle of the first quarter, Johnson replaced Terry and Finley with Stackhouse and Devin Harris. The Mavericks also had Marquis Daniels on the bench. Their lineup was enviable. Kellyan also made adjustments. Eddie House, Delfino, and Barnes replaced Atkins, Butler, and Odom respectively. Kobe was pushed to the small forward position, and Barnes played at the power forward position to face Nowitzki. Compared with blue-collar inside players of the same size, Nowitzki hates the small forwards with light footsteps to defend him more. Historically, in the playoffs of this year, Nowitzki was once very uncomfortable with McGrady. In the 2007 playoffs, the Warriors upset the Mavericks, which was also due to Steven Jackson, Harrington, and Matt Barnes taking turns to face Nowitzki and interfere with his shooting. Therefore, Kellyan's use of Barnes to face Nowitzki was a somewhat advanced attempt, but it was not a dead end. However, copying the good may not always work. The current Barnes seems to be a little weak against Nowitzki, and he failed to defend 3-pointers and 2-pointers. Fortunately, the Lakers' offensive firepower is swift, and Kobe and Delfino have both performed well. The two teams still couldn't defend, and the score was 38-41. Kobe played the entire quarter, scoring 13 points, 2 rebounds and 3 assists, leading the Lakers to a 3-point lead in the first quarter. In the second quarter, both teams sent out substitutes. The Mavericks had 5 players: Devin Harris, Terry, Stackhouse, Van Horn, and Bradley. The Lakers had 5 players: Eddie House, Delfino, Butler, Brian Cook, and Odom. Kellyan and Johnson had similar substitution habits. They both like to take the team's second scoring point halfway through the first quarter and then replace them with the substitutes in the transition period. Kellyan used players more specifically. In this game, he directly abandoned the team's second center Diop and instead reused the space type inside player Cook. Odom moved to the center position. In this way, Odom pulled to the top of the arc to hold the ball on the offensive end. There was an open space in front of him. Bradley dared to let Odom pass him like a road in the morning. If Bradley didn't come out, Odom could directly shoot a 3-pointer or go to the free throw line to cooperate with his teammates. There were many offensive options. The Mavericks couldn't control the Lakers on the defensive end, but the efficiency on the offensive end was still good. Harris, Terry, and Stackhouse were all outside players with the ability to attack with the ball, and Johnson's tactics were also suitable for them to play, that is, to take turns to use pick and rolls and singles. Johnson replaced Nelson as the head coach of the Mavericks, and the change he brought to the team was to change the team's defensive awareness and let the players pay attention to defense. But there are also disadvantages. The team's mercurial offensive cooperation has decreased, and it relies more on singles. From this level, the Mavericks might as well ask Kellyan to be the head coach. Although the Lakers under Kellyan also focus more on offense than defense, when it came to the critical moment, Kellyan was able to come up with various ideas and try out various methods. If he had taken over Nelson's team, the Mavericks basketball philosophy could have been inherited more smoothly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Ace vs. Ace. Halfway through the second quarter, the main lineups of both sides returned, and the score was 46-54, with the Lakers leading away from home. Bradley was fully utilized by the Lakers. It is no wonder that Dampier, with a 7-year, $73 million contract, still does not look like a garbage contract in the Mavericks. The Mavericks' interior defense is really poor, which makes him stand out on the defensive end. In fact, in terms of low post defense and rebounding protection, Dampier is indeed a high-end product among blue-collar interior players. You can say that he has a poor cost effectiveness, but you can't say that he is inefficient. But in addition to the big contract, another shortcoming of his criticism is that he controls fouls very poorly. Except for the contract year last season, he was able to play 34.3 minutes per game. In other seasons, his playing time did not exceed 30 minutes. This season, his average playing time is only 28 minutes. And his short playing time is not because he plays hard and consumes a lot of energy, but purely because of his large defensive moves and many fouls. In other words, the Mavericks spend $10.5 million every year to support a quasi first-class blue-collar interior player who can only play 28 minutes per game. In the first quarter, Dampier had already committed 2 fouls. If he was beaten, the Mavericks' interior defense would at least drop a level. Kellyan gave Kobe and Odom instructions and pointed out the potential crisis of the Mavericks. Life is like a chocolate. You don't know whether the next one will be bitter or sweet. Before Kobe took the initiative to find Dampier on the offensive end, Dampier committed his 3rd foul when he grabbed the rebound. Even when the Lakers served the ball, Avery Johnson didn't realize this until the assistant coach next to him reminded him. Kobe forced a breakthrough to the basket. Dampier, who had 3 fouls, only made a symbolic defense. He watched Kobe jump up and dunk. The score difference was widened to 10 points. If it was Kellyan, Nowitzki would be arranged to appear at the center position at this time. The German tank at least has no problem with height, physique, and tactical awareness. Even if the defense can't hold, at least the offensive team space is completely opened up, and it can explode with the Lakers. But Johnson did not have the experimental spirit of mad scientists like Nelson and Kellyan. When Bradley's defense was not effective, he replaced him with the 3rd center Mbenga, an inside player with nothing but a strong body. Johnson's stupid move greatly reduced the defensive pressure on the Lakers. Mbenga's performance after his appearance was almost at the level of a war criminal. The Lakers seized this opportunity of 5 against 4 and played an 8:2 wave in one go, widening the score difference to 16 points and maintained the advantage until the end of the first half. 50:66. In the third quarter, the Mavericks relied on the league's strongest singles team to close the score. Avery Johnson simply withdrew Finley, who was not comfortable with him, and Terry and Stackhouse formed a double guard, who could break through and shoot. Kobe was tied up against Stackhouse on the defensive end, and a lot of his energy was tied up, which affected his offensive state. Odom and Anderson suffered when facing Nowitzki. Nowitzki held the ball and played singles, turned around and shot, and received the ball after the pick and roll, and scored jump shots. When the Lakers double-teamed, Nowitzki started passing the ball, and other teammates were able to score, so the Lakers defense was distracted. The Mavericks win by attacking, and there is no team in the league that can completely defend them. The Suns may not be able to beat them, Killian was thinking about countermeasures on the sidelines, and was glad that the Mavericks at least had Dampier at the center position, and Nowitzki did not study the later Golden Rooster stand, otherwise the Lakers would be even more difficult to resist. The Mavericks once narrowed the gap to 3 points, which made the Lakers fans sweat. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Kobe and House hit 3-pointers respectively, helping the Lakers to pull the gap back to 8 points before the end of the third quarter. 88-96. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Lakers continued to take advantage of the absence of Dampier and the weakness of the Mavericks inside line, and even went to an extreme level in the second quarter. Odom held the ball at the top of the arc, while House, Delfino, Butler, and Barnes completely opened up the space. 2 cups of poison were placed in front of Bradley, and it was up to him to see which cup he would choose. Bradley chose to follow and defend, and Odom and Butler completed a hand-to-hand cooperation, and took the opportunity to block Josh Howard. Bradley's speed could not keep up with Butler, and he was stuck in position, and retreated to the inside line, but it was too late. Butler, who had already rushed up, finally found an opportunity to dunk over the tallest player in the league, and he would not let go. He almost jumped after Bradley, actively knocked Bradley away, and then slammed the ball into the basket, before losing his balance. It felt painful to fall to the ground, but Butler's face did not show any pain, but a serious look of pretense. Remind the photographer, did you take the photo? I dunked over Bradley. Are you guys going to arrange the top 5 shots? The Mavericks are on offense. Devin Harris gets rid of House with the help of LaFrance's screen and hits a mid-range shot. Although the 5th pick in this season is only a substitute in the Mavericks, he still has good potential. He has speed and is okay in the mid-range. The disadvantage is that he is not good at confrontation. It is a good choice for him to grow slowly as a substitute. The Mavericks' next round of offense was still initiated by Harris. He broke through to attract the defense and passed the ball to Finley, who was cutting. The latter received the ball and opened Delfino and scored from the mid-range. Finley's status in the Mavericks has gradually declined. He has gradually transformed into a shooter and cannot complete Johnson's singles task. He still has a high salary. If the rumored Allen Houston clause is formed, the Mavericks are very likely to cut him. This also reflects the Mavericks' terrifying outside depth now. Players like Finley are actually considered to be cut. The Lakers continued to attack Bradley. Bradley defended, and Odom dribbled past him skillfully, not even giving Bradley a chance to foul. Finley let go of Butler, who was defending him, and moved inward to the 3-second line. Odom jumped up to pass the ball, and found Butler's position, after jumping into the air. Terry helped to rotate, but missed Delfino, who was more threatening with 3-pointers. The latter even had time to adjust his dribbling, and shot at the same rhythm as training, and hit it. 92-101. Odom's handling of this ball was not reasonable, and jumping to pass the ball was really a taboo. But the vision brought by his height and wingspan made it possible to achieve the effect, even if the handling of the ball was a little unreasonable. This is also a real talent. The Lakers wanted to take the opportunity to widen the gap, but the Mavericks players were indeed more capable, and they used personal offense to slow down the Lakers' progress. The game entered the last 7 minutes, and the score difference was still 9 points, 100-109. The main players on both sides returned to the court and started the final fight. Terry dribbled the ball across half court and got the ball in the middle. Atkins defended him alone. Nowitzki screened Stackhouse on the left, and the latter into 70 degrees, and received the pass from Terry. Anderson switched defense in time, and Stackhouse took the opportunity to dribble to the middle and pass the ball to Nowitzki, who was pulled to the outside. The latter received the ball on the wing and faced Butler's defense. He pretended to break through and forced Butler to retreat, but in fact he shot from outside the 3-point line and made it. 103-109. The whole world knows that Nowitzki's shooting threat is great, but compared to the unsolvable mid-range shot, he doesn't shoot from outside the 3-point line very often. Butler was a little too confident. Facing such a superstar, there must be this kind of defensive inertia, which is a fixed mindset. The Lakers were on offense. Kobe was playing Howard single-handedly, and chose to forcefully break through from the right side. While moving, his body suddenly changed direction. His right hand holding the ball suddenly pulled from the right side to the left side, and his body also moved horizontally a few points, shaking off Butler in front of him. He gently held the ball with his left hand, then closed his right hand, stood up and shot. Swish. The ball went through the net without a moment's hesitation. 103:111, Kobe vs. Nowitzki, Ace vs Ace. Chapter 83, the X factor that decides the game. The ball was sent from the Mavericks backcourt, and Terry controlled the ball and came to the front court. Atkins stepped forward a little, half bent and stood there, looking at Terry 3 meters away. Terry just stood there, dribbling the ball in place, as if he was very casual, but his eyes were looking at the entire half court. Then Nowitzki, who was standing at the right corner, set a pick and roll. Kobe immediately understood what was going on. He turned his head and glanced at the entire situation, leaving Howard outside the 3-point line empty, and made a move in advance. Just as Nowitzki quickly ran to Atkins, Terry, like a cunning rabbit, dribbled along the 3-point line to the center. Kobe inserted from the inside in time and blocked Terry's breakthrough route. Terry paused, and just when Kobe was about to stick to his body, he suddenly accelerated again, bent his body, and changed direction again, leaping over from the other side of Kobe. Kobe subconsciously fouled, not wanting Terry to score easily. Terry stood up and shot. Even with Kobe's interference, he still maintained a stable shooting posture. Even though Anderson had already filled in and waved his huge hands, Terry's shot was still determined. With a slight shake of his wrist, the ball flew away like a spirit. Beep. The referee blew the whistle for the foul. Kobe and Terry hugged each other awkwardly and sat on the ground. Terry jumped up again and shouted loudly, 2 points are valid, 1 free throw. Sure. 106:111. Terry turned around and ran to his own half, shouting loudly to his teammates while running. The Lakers attacked. Kobe received the ball, pulled to the low post and forced Howard, attracted Terry to double team, and then passed the ball. Atkins received the ball and swung his body, dribbled to the left, and his body moving quickly to the left suddenly stopped at the moment he received the ball, spread his body, and shot without any hesitation. Swish. 106:113. The Mavericks attacked, and Terry and Nowitzki's high pick and roll again. Terry resolutely broke through and took away Odom and passed the ball back to Nowitzki at the free throw line. Nowitzki leaned on Kobe, turned around and made a mid-range shot. 108:113. The Lakers suppressed the Mavericks in this game. A very important reason was that the two wingers Kobe and Butler suppressed Josh Howard's singles. But at the critical moment, the Mavericks' other scoring points were still stable. Especially the pick and roll between Terry and Nowitzki, which can be called a killer. Terry's offensive threat can bring the best offensive environment to Nowitzki. Kobe received the ball in the low post, turned around, and then shook his body violently to the left and right, and then turned his whole body around with his left foot as the center axis, stood up, leaned back, and shot. The basketball was almost flying above the baseline, passing high above the backboard, and falling into the basket. 108:115. Sitting on the ground, Kobe looked at Howard, who was still blocking the shot, slowly stretched out his right hand, raised his index finger and gently shook it in front of his mouth. Howard looked back at the basket helplessly, as if he still couldn't believe that the ball had actually gone in, but he immediately regained his composure. The Mavericks attacked. The two wings repeatedly ran and pulled the formation. Nowitzki singled out Odom, faked Odom, did not force a breakthrough, and took a shot with a time difference. Ding. The ball hit the inner edge of the basket and bounced into the basket. 110:115. Nowitzki raised his right arm and clenched his fist tightly. Every spectator's face was flashing with excitement. No one was not immersed in the wonderful game, and their breathing seemed to begin to expand and contract with every bounce of the orange basketball. Led by their respective leaders, the offense and defense rhythm of both teams was extremely fast and smooth, leaving no audience present with a moment of leisure to think about anything or take care of anything. Everyone could only immerse themselves in the game. Bang. After a series of successful attacks, Kobe missed his first attack and missed the shot under the double team of Stackhouse and Howard. Nowitzki got the ball again, made a fake move, and shot the basketball in his hand from one step outside the right 3-point line. Swish. With another crisp sound, the score difference was narrowed to 2 points. 113:115. The whole audience finally shouted in unison, MVP, MVP, MVP. Nowitzki was not as eager to perform as the American players, and simply raised his arms to greet the audience. MVP, MVP, MVP. This time, the voice was louder and crazier. In the last 3 minutes, Kellyanne requested a timeout. The score difference was only 2 points, and the battle between the two sides entered a white-hot stage. After the timeout, the Lakers changed their formation again. Barnes replaced Atkins, and Kellyanne took over the team's point guard position. The task of carrying the ball across half court was directly handed over to Kobe and Odom. This adjustment directly brought the Lakers an advantage in height and size. Odom was skilled in ball control and had no problem playing as a point guard. The Lakers point guard Atkins himself did not have much ability to organize offense. His main responsibility was to carry the ball across half court and then stand outside to create space. Kellyanne's move directly made the Mavericks players on the court lose the direction of adjustment. Terry went up to defend Odom, but was easily suppressed by the opponent and fouled. The fans in the audience booed loudly to interfere with Odom's free throws. Odom, who often failed to play, withstood the pressure and made both free throws. 113:117. It was also during this free throw that the Mavericks players communicated with each other and rearranged the defensive tasks. The Mavericks served the ball from the backcourt, and Kobe led the defense of Terry throughout the game. Under strong pressure, Terry's dribbling deviated, and he smashed the ball towards Kobe before it was about to go out of bounds, barely keeping the ball. However, this entanglement caused the Mavericks to lose 6 seconds. The backcourt sideline serve must be thrown to the front court as soon as possible, otherwise it is easy to commit an 8-second violation. The Lakers continued to defend with high pressure. The 5 players on the court, including center Anderson, were all tall, long-armed, and athletic. Nowitzki did not serve the ball within 5 seconds and called a timeout in time. Kellyanne made a prediction on the tactical board regarding the serving route that Johnson might design. In a 30-second short timeout, he explained 4 possibilities abruptly, which also made Monty Williams next to him admire. After all, he is from Europe, and he is so particular about serving a sideline ball. More importantly, Kellyanne is not just talking about it on paper. In the next round, the Lakers' position successfully forced Nowitzki to serve the ball wrong. No one touched the ball, and the ball flew directly out of the sideline on the other side. On the surface, it was Nowitzki's mistake, but in fact, Terry was obviously more responsible for this goal. It can even be said that this is not the worst result for the Mavericks. If the Lakers steal the ball and directly launch a counter-attack, the score difference will be widened to 6 points. That would be troublesome. The Lakers attacked, and the Mavericks defense was in a reasonable position. Terry watched Barnes in the bottom corner. Nowitzki pulled out to defend Odom. Stackhouse wrestled with Butler, and Howard, who had the best defense, was responsible for Kobe. Kobe, who had already scored 44 points, was in great form, and went around to the right low post to receive the ball. He singled out Stackhouse and flexibly shook Howard's defensive center of gravity. However, he failed to grasp the strength of the subsequent turn shot. Dampier protected the rebound and gave the ball to Terry as soon as possible. Terry dribbled across half court and shook twice in succession, but still did not get out of the angle. Kobe stood in front of him like a rock. The ball was passed out helplessly and passed twice on the outside line. Nowitzki ran over from the right baseline and caught the ball. Odom was right behind him. Nowitzki didn't stop his pace. He took advantage of the momentum and dribbled to the inside. Kobe and Odom closed the door in time. Nowitzki took 2 steps and took 1 step. He jumped into the 3-second zone, shot the ball on horseback, and threw it out. The ball was thrown high, but before it reached the highest point, a hand appeared in front of it at the right time. Snap! The hand and the basketball screamed loudly. Anderson stood in place and waved his wings again. At the critical moment, the Birdman appeared in the key position and sent a fatal block. The Mavericks served the ball from the sideline. After a large-scale run, Terry caught the ball and passed it to Howard at the corner. Howard leaned against Butler behind him, took a sidestep, forcibly got rid of Butler's defense range, and shot backward. A hand surprisingly appeared in front of it again, and then once again ruthlessly blocked the basketball. Odom gave Anderson a big push to express his joy, and other teammates also took turns to pat Anderson to show encouragement. On the sidelines, the usually calm Kellyanne also jumped up excitedly. These 2 consecutive blocks really boosted morale. Chapter 84: The decisive moment. Consecutive blocks left less than 2 seconds of shooting time. Terry's shot in zero space ultimately failed to hit the target, and the Lakers maintained a 4-point lead. The Lakers attack came again. Kobe held the ball from the outside, and the game had entered the final decisive stage. His speed was still so fast, his eyes were still sharp, and his face was still filled with persistence. He changed direction in a large arc to shake off Howard, and then avoided Nowitzki, who was flying over to block the shot. Kobe jumped up diagonally. Even so, his upper body still maintained a very standard shooting posture. With a shake of his wrist, the basketball flew out obediently. Standing in place, Kobe still maintained the shooting posture, with his right hand raised high, and the index finger that said goodbye to the basketball stood at the highest point. Kobe's toes slowly lifted up, and when he saw the basketball fall into the net with his own eyes, it finally fell back, and he shouted, and ran to his own half. 113:119. 2 minutes, 6 points difference. The Lakers can basically win the game, as long as they don't make any mistakes. This will be the first time that the Lakers under Kellyanne have won against a top team in the league. Kellyanne clenched his hands, vaguely feeling that his nails had been embedded in his palms. In the next round, the Mavericks' offense was successful. Nowitzki pinned the Lakers' defensive focus in the interior, attracting the attention of Butler and Barnes, and then suddenly passed the ball out. The Lakers suppressed Howard throughout the game, and Howard, who performed poorly, finally hardened up and made a three-pointer. 116:119. Three-pointer. Kellyanne seemed to have golden stars flashing in front of his eyes. At such a critical moment, the Mavericks scored a three-pointer, and Howard, who was not good at three-pointers. This made him quite frustrated. It doesn't matter, hit them back. Kellyanne fell into a trance, and Monty Williams beside him stood up and shouted to the players on the court, "That's right, we are still leading." Kellyanne looked at Monty Williams gratefully and pulled himself out of his emotions in time. As a head coach, he must not panic at this time. If he panics, the whole team will be confused. When Kobe got the ball in the half court, Howard and Terry stood in front of him like two horns, one slightly forward in the middle defense, and one slightly behind the bottom defense. The Mavericks directly chose to double team Kobe. Kobe did not mess around and passed the ball to Odom. As soon as the ball arrived, Nowitzki appeared in front of Odom and stuck to Odom. Continuing to transfer, Barnes received the ball, exhaled as usual, turned his head, but did not see anyone coming forward to press defense. Terry gave up a full step of distance, betting that Barnes could not make the shot from this position. In a flash, Barnes did not shoot. When he wanted to shoot again, the rhythm of shooting was already messed up, and he was even more panicked. Kobe ran from the other side, and Howard chased him closely behind him. Barnes made a clever sideways position, passing the ball to Kobe and slightly blocking Howard. Kobe took the ball and had no time to think. He stood up and shot. Bang! The basketball that bounced high was immediately caught by Dampier, who was already prepared. The Lakers returned to defense immediately. The Mavericks did not force a fast break, but slowly advanced to fight a positional battle. Nowitzki directly pulled to the three-point line to receive the ball and directed his teammates to run. Dampier's sideways screen and rolled Kobe tightly to his side. Terry used Dampier's off-ball screen to get rid of Kobe. Less than 1 meter before the free throw line, he stopped, received the ball, bent his body, and then stretched his body and jumped up. Snap. Anderson again. When Dampier blocked Terry, who was chasing him, Anderson chose to bypass Dampier and chase Terry. When he rushed out of the inside and accelerated towards Terry, he had already seen Terry jump up, and the ball had been shot. The name may be wrong, but the nickname will not. At this moment, Anderson really flew up, and his fingertips touched the basketball at the highest point. Anderson staggered to the ground, and without stopping, he took off twice and grabbed the basketball before Terry. The ball flew out of his hand and flew to Butler, who had already rushed to the front court from another way. He stretched out his arms and caught the warmth of Anderson's palm. Butler shook off everyone, took 3 big steps, and made a one-handed side dunk, pointing at Anderson and roaring, 116:121. There were 47 seconds left in the game, and the situation was very unfavorable for the Mavericks. The team had to score 2 attacks and defend the Lakers' offense. The pressure was not small. Avery Johnson called a timeout and rearranged the game tactics. Butler roared loudly, and Anderson rushed over excitedly, hugged him in his arms, and laughed. "Karen. Beautiful dunk." Butler turned his head and looked at Anderson's smiling face while panting, and hugged Anderson tightly with his backhand. Taking advantage of this timeout, Killian replaced Atkins and removed Barnes, allowing the team's lineup on the court to be balanced again. The Mavericks also made personnel adjustments, replacing Stackhouse with Devin Harris. In fact, when the Lakers sent out a big lineup, Johnson should have used Harris, who is more mobile and has better breakthroughs, to target him instead of Stackhouse. Now that Harris is on the court, his role against Atkins is not so prominent. With a 5-point lead, the Lakers' defense was mainly based on delays, and they expanded very strongly, resolutely not giving the Mavericks a chance to shoot 3-pointers. Harris cut through the Lakers' defense like a knife and scored a layup, 118:121, with 34 seconds left. The Lakers served the ball from the baseline, and all the Mavericks pressed into the Lakers' half court, and even someone in front of Odom waved his arms to interfere. At this time, Atkins, who was entrusted by Killian, became the key for the Lakers to break the Mavericks' full court press. He first rushed into the crowd, desperately went around the screen to shake off Harris behind him, and then rushed to the Mavericks' backcourt. Odom noticed the gap in the Mavericks' defense and threw the ball to the Mavericks' backcourt. Harris rushed out of the crowd in time, jumped high, touched the basketball with his fingers, but couldn't control it, and then used force on his fingertips to break the ball out of the sideline. Advancing from the baseline to the sideline is a strategic success, and the vision and difficulty are completely different. Serving the sideline ball is a global problem for Zalki, but the Lakers have no such worries. Odom served the ball, and the other players lined up at the free throw line. Atkins stood first, Butler stood second, Kobe stood third, and Anderson stood fourth. As soon as the referee blew the whistle, Atkins ran to Odom to be the first contact point. Butler ran to the weak side corner, the farthest but most easily overlooked point. Kobe ran to the midline, pinning down the Mavericks' defensive focus, and Anderson went to the basket. If the basket was empty, he could attack the basket directly. After a shove and a pick and roll, the Mavericks' basket was mismatched. Anderson, who went to the basket, faced Josh Howard. At this time, if he went directly to the high basket, he would have a good chance to complete an alley-oop. However, Odom was still conservative and honestly passed the ball to Kobe, who was sandwiched by Nowitzki and Terry. Kobe dribbled the ball twice, retreated 2 steps, jumped up and passed the ball to Odom. The Lakers formed a zone of 4 against 3, and the situation suddenly became clear. Nowitzki returned to his position immediately, and Odom was not in a hurry to attack. He dribbled a circle to control the time, and gave the ball to Kobe for the final attack. Kobe dribbled the ball under his crotch and slowly approached Howard, maintaining the most peaceful posture, but Howard in front of him knew that behind this piece was an attack as fast as lightning. Just as Josh Howard thought, Kobe's left shoulder sank back, and then his right shoulder suddenly leaned forward, followed by his left hand holding the ball and moving it diagonally to the right, and his left foot also stepped out at the same time. Howard's body suddenly retreated, and his footsteps also changed, moving horizontally 1 step. Kobe's forward-leaning posture suddenly stopped, and the ball that was about to be shot was tightly grasped in his left hand, and his right foot turned outward, and the left foot that had stepped forward also stepped back at the same time. The arched body stood up at this time, and the right hand held the ball steadily, and then the bent feet also stood up and gently jumped up, showing a very elegant shooting posture in the eyes of the horrified Howard. He had no ability to reach out to block the shot. Howard shouted and watched Kobe shoot the ball. Swish. Is there any sound in the world more beautiful than this? Chapter 85 Mad Scientist. 13 seconds. 5 points difference. Even the most tenacious team can do nothing in the face of this situation. Now Itzka's character is not as soft as his playing style, but he did not struggle in vain in the face of this situation. Devin Harris scored a layup in the end, and with only 2 seconds left, he did not choose to continue to foul. The Lakers sent the ball, and the players of both sides shook hands and hugged one after another, ending this wonderful match. On the sidelines, Kellyan took the initiative to shake hands with Avery Johnson. Little General is someone Kellyan envied very much. He also went from assistant coach to head coach this season. He started with a great start and took over the Dallas Mavericks, the top 5 team in the league, while himself, well, the opportunity is not bad. The lineup is not as good as the Mavericks, but it is of course a sense of accomplishment to beat the Mavericks. But if Kellyan succeeds Nelson, he has the confidence to lead the Mavericks to the championship directly. The Lakers' record is 33-20, narrowing the gap with the Rockets, 34-19, in front of them, and they continue to rank 6th in the Western Conference. This is a favorable ranking for the team. However, there is still 1/3 of the season left, and any result can happen. It is useless to think too much now. The All-Star game is over, and the trade deadline is approaching. The general managers of various teams are busy, and everyone has their own ideas. Teams aiming for the championship are trying to strengthen the team's strength through trades. Mid-level teams are looking for opportunities to pick up leaks. Teams on the edge of the playoffs want to make a push. Teams that are in a bad situation are willing to trade ready-to-play players in exchange for young players and draft picks. Chris Webber, who the Kings have been selling, finally joined the 76ers. Chris Webber, Eric Daniels and Mike Bradley were sent to the 76ers, and Kenny Thomas, Williamson, and Skinner were obtained from the 76ers. What is surprising is the 3 players the Kings got from the 76ers. None of these 3 players can see Webber's taillights, and they all have a long-term contract. In other words, the Kings made this deal not to reduce the pressure on wages, but to remove the contradictions of the team and let Peja, the new head of the team, play for the team with peace of mind. As for the 76ers, sending away 3 blue-collar players and getting a 32-year-old all-star power forward, the team's book strength has definitely improved. Webber has shooting, can play singles, and his ability to assist is the best in the league. He should be a perfect match with Iverson, who has super scoring ability. As for the locker room problems that Webber may bring, who can turn the sky over Iverson in the 76ers? Kellyan and Hamblin also talked about this deal when they were chatting. The two had the same view on this deal. The Kings' strength has definitely declined. This is a good thing for the Lakers, a competitor for a playoff spot. Considering the distrust of Jerry Buss and Kupchak in himself, Kellyan did not expect the team to make any moves before the trade deadline. To put it bluntly, if Kobe, Odom, and Butler cannot be moved, how can the team operate? Are they going to fool around with Grant's garbage contract? The management of that team must have been kicked in the head by a donkey to accept Grant's 3-year, $42 million contract, including this season. As a result, Kupchak really found the management of the team that was kicked in the head by a donkey, or the Mavericks general manager Nelson, son of Nelson Sr., to come to the door, hoping to trade Grant with Mike Finley, who still has gas in the tank. After Avery Johnson took office, Finley's status in the Mavericks gradually declined. Although he still occupies the main position of the team, his playing time has dropped sharply from 38 minutes per game to 31 minutes. The decline in athletic ability has made Finley gradually degenerate into a shooter, and a shooter with weak defensive ability, which makes him unsuitable for Avery Johnson's system. His remaining 4 years, including this season, with a total of $64 million contract is a huge burden for the Mavericks, and will affect the future operation of the Mavericks. No matter how serious Finley's decline is, at least his output can be guaranteed. He has the strength to start in half of the teams in the league. It is much better than Grant. But the Mavericks management is not stupid. The reason why they pushed for this obviously disadvantageous deal is very simple. Not long ago, the league passed the Allen Houston clause allowing a team to cut one player within the luxury tax at a time. Simply put, the team can pay the remaining amount in the player's contract in one lump sum, so that the player's salary is not included in the team's salary cap. For example, the Lakers' total salary this season is $75 million, Grant's salary is $14 million, and the league's luxury tax threshold this season is $60 million. The Lakers paid Grant $42 million in Grant's contract in one go, and then reduced the total salary by $1 million by dealing with other contracts, so as to avoid paying luxury tax. If Finley cannot be traded before the trade deadline, the Mavericks can only choose to use the Allen Houston clause to cut Finley after the season, and they need to pay him $48 million in salary for the next 3 years. If the deal is reached, the team will cut Grant, who will be paid $28 million for 2 years, and Cuban will save $20 million in one go. At the same time, for the Mavericks, who have too much firepower on the outside and not enough inside, Grant seems to be able to make do. Although he can't compete with Bradley, at least he is better than Ben. After a little consideration, Kellyan immediately informed Kupchak that he agreed to the deal. After this deal, the Lakers inside line only has Anderson, Odom, Brian Cook, Diop, and Medvedenko, the water dispenser inside line. If there is an injury crisis, there will even be a personnel vacuum. However, Kellyan still agreed to the deal. In his bones, Kellyan is a coach who prefers offense and is willing to promote the small ball tactics. Once Finley, a top shooter with no dead angle outside the three-point line, can be embedded in Kellyan's offensive system, the threat of outside shooting is huge. Think about the lineup of Atkins, Kobe, Finley, Butler, Odom. Well, the standard offensive kaleidoscope, defensive stab. As for the team's layoffs and the need to pay an extra $20 million, that is Jerry Buss's business and has nothing to do with Kellyan. His task is to lead the team to improve its performance, and Kupchak is responsible for how much money to spend. Other teams proposed trading plans to the Lakers, and Kupchak would inform Kellyan only if he thought it was worth trying. Kellyan voted in favor, and Kupchak reported the trading plan to Jerry Buss. In this way, is our inside line too weak? If there was no Mimdelfino trade, Jerry Buss also thought that this deal was good and the team's strength had improved, but combined with the previous deal, Jerry Buss felt that the risk was very high. Jerry Buss doesn't really care about spending an extra $20 million. The key is that it works. Kimi also supports this deal. He thinks Finley can provide us with great help on the offensive end. Kupchak used Kellyan as a shield. So far, most of the players Kellyan has advocated for have been good. Kupchak used him to persuade Buss to agree to the deal. Chapter 86, Defeat the Enemy. Yahoo Sports reported the news of the Lakers and Mavericks reaching a deal at the first time, and the internet immediately launched a discussion on the deal. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the chips paid by both parties in this deal are not equal. Many people expressed their incomprehension of reaching a deal under such circumstances. Non-professional fans complained in various ways, thinking that even if Finley's performance declined seriously, he still had an average output of 15 points per game, so he would not be reduced to being swapped with Grant. When the fans had enough cursing, ESPN's trade rating gave the Mavericks a B+. Dallas does not need to be troubled by the loss of Michael Finley. The promulgation of the Allen Houston clause gives each team the opportunity to cut a player without occupying salary space. Fans can be emotional, but the management must clearly analyze whether the least cost-effective contract in the team will affect the team's future operations. Nelson did this. The playing time left by Finley's departure can be filled by Devin Harris, Daniels, and Stackhouse. Grant's joining at least adds an inside option to Johnson's team. The most important thing is that Cuban saved $20 million in the summer. On the other hand, the Lakers, whose strength has improved, received only a B rating. ESPN believes that the Lakers have made too many repeated investments in the wing, and the personnel vacuum in the interior is a hidden danger for the team in the future. Kimi is going further and further on the road to successor to old Nelson. This is the final evaluation given by ESPN. After the physical examination, the transaction still needs to be confirmed by the league's documents, so Finley will also miss the third Los Angeles Derby this season. Wearing casual clothes, Finley came to the Staples Center in a good mood and greeted his teammates and coaches one by one. "Hello, Michael." Kellyan naturally high-fived Finley and bumped his chest with Finley, showing a very easygoing attitude. It was the first time for Finley to work with a coach younger than himself. but thinking that Kellyan's tactical style was what he liked, Finley still accepted the fact with pleasure. The only regret is that, after coming to the Lakers, he has to play as a substitute. We are very happy to have a shooter like you join the team. We need you to help the team maintain firepower in the transition period of the game. Straight to the point, Kellyan stated his plan to use Finley. You also know that we have a manpower problem in the interior. We will also use a small lineup for a considerable part of the game time. Kumi, don't worry. If you are only willing to give me a 5-minute game opportunity, I will also do my best in 5 minutes. Finley's character is like this. When he came to the Mavericks from the Suns, he was the only hope of the team. In 1998, 2 young men from foreign countries joined the Mavericks. It was Finley who protected them with his shoulders and gave them room to grow. With the growth of Nowitzki and Nash, Finley's ball rights have been declining again and again. After Nash left, Terry and Stackhouse further divided his ball rights, but he still had no complaints. Looking at the entire NBA, there are not many such honest people. Kellyan laughed and stretched out his hand. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. This Los Angeles derby is still very important to Kellyan personally. In the last game before the All-Star game, the team defeated the Bulls at home. In the first game after the All-Star game, the team defeated the Mavericks away. He was only one step away from his first 3-game winning streak since he took over as the head coach, which was certainly worth looking forward to. Not to mention, there was also the promise of his girlfriend Wanglefin, a reward for 3 consecutive wins. Anderson's excellent bounce allowed him to win the jump ball again. With Badman, the Lakers' chances of winning the jump ball were as high as 80%. Atkins stretched his right wrist forward and caught the ball in the air. He paused slightly and then rushed to the opponent's half court like an arrow from a string. This was what Kellyan asked of him, using his speed to mess up the Clippers' defense. The creator is fair. Livingston has an advantage in height, but he must suffer in agility. Atkins tried to break through, but was blocked by Livingston, and he passed the ball in time, and Kobe made a jump shot while running. The Clippers attacked. Livingston passed the ball to Brand. Odom immediately came up and held Brand with his left shoulder. He dribbled the ball with his right hand and pushed back. Brand's ability to fight in the interior was excellent. Odom held on to the first shot, but he still couldn't stand his continuous impact. He gave up his position under the basket and watched Brand hit the backboard. With one less player in the interior, Mike Dunleavy's idea was to attack the Lakers' interior at all costs. The Lakers continued to attack. Kobe received the ball in the half court and tried to break through several times, attracting the attention of the opponent's outside line. Odom was empty at the free throw line. Kobe's ball was passed to him in time. Odom pushed the ball. The ball bounced on the basket a few times and finally fell into the basket. On the way back to defense, Odom took a deep breath. When he shot just now, he felt something was wrong. Fortunately, he had good luck today, and the ball bounced in. Otherwise it would be a waste of his teammate's pass. Livingston dribbled across half court, attracted Kobe to switch defense, and then passed the ball to Kittles. The Mosquito shooter received the ball, suddenly started, and shot a quick stop jump shot. Although the ball hit the rim and bounced out, it caused Atkins to commit a defensive foul. Fouling Kittles is equivalent to giving away points. After the opening, the focus of both teams was on offense. The score between the two sides in the first half of the game was 16-14. The Lakers relied on the outstanding performance of the whole team to win a 2-point lead. But the situation cannot be said to be very favorable for the Lakers. The Clippers' strategy of attacking the inside line still gave the Lakers a headache. Brandon Kaman, whose skill points are all in the low post attack point, just hit the Lakers' weak spot. During the official timeout, Kellyan made personnel adjustments. Diop replaced Anderson, Delfino replaced Butler, and Eddie House replaced Atkins, using the appearance of 2 shooters to help the team better open up offensive space. This adjustment was effective immediately. After the timeout, Kobe had an explosion. First, he made a long-range 3-pointer from the right wing, and then he completed a hand-to-hand cooperation with Odom, broke into the basket, and faced Kaman's defensive layup. Not only did he put the ball into the basket, but he also caused Kaman to commit a shooting foul. During this period after the All-Star game, Kobe's performance surprised Kellyan. Not only was his personal offensive state gratifying, but he was also able to try to lead his teammates in the opening stage of the game. This change happened to Kobe this season, which was beyond Kellyan's expectations. After returning from the timeout, the score difference immediately widened to 8 points. Dunleavy was a little unhappy and replaced Kittles with Maggette to enhance the team's impact. Maggette's appearance enhanced the Clippers' ability to fight in chaos. After 2 consecutive strong hits, Kellyan changed the lineup again. In the last game against the Mavericks, Odom's big lineup as a guest point guard was first seen, and it was used by Kellyan again in this game. Barnes replaced House, and the Lakers' only 5 inside players piled up 3 at once. At this point, the defense of the restricted area can be said to be impregnable. Anyway, the 2 point guards of the team are not competent, and Kellyan has no burden at all to let Odom play as a guest point guard. In fact, it is also very easy to crack. As long as there is a small guard with fast speed and strong breakthrough, it is likely to be able to kill 7 in and 7 out. However, it always takes time to react to strange moves. Johnson was late to replace Devin Harris, and Dunleavy did not have this type of player. The Clippers could not break Kellyan's adjustment, and the score difference was quickly widened. On the Lakers bench, Finley looked at Kellyan, who was sitting on the diote, and recognized him a little more. He likes this kind of coach who always has wonderful ideas when facing difficulties. Chapter 87. Kobe wins the game scientifically. Entering the second quarter with a 14-point lead, Kellyan began to make things happen, using the lineup of House, Delfino, Butler, Barnes, and Diop to experiment with the 1 big and 4 small system to continue the team's offensive space. A successful scientific experiment is always accompanied by failure. Kellyan's attempts sometimes defeat the enemy, but of course there will be times when he fails to open up the situation and is caught by the opponent's weakness. In the basket, 1 against 2, Diop failed to defend the team's restricted area. The Lakers lost backcourt rebounds continuously and were scored by the opponent's second attack. The Clippers played an 8:2 attack wave and narrowed the score difference to 8 points. Kellyan made timely adjustments and replaced Barnes with Brian Cook to ensure outside shooting while stabilizing the restricted area. Although Cook is also a kite man, he is still an inside player and can help carry people. No matter how soft the space type inside player is, he is still an inside player. It is more useful to block the position in the restricted area than a wing like Barnes. The Clippers bench lineup itself is not very strong. The Lakers lineup has returned to a balanced state. Under Butler's leadership, the score difference has been widened to double digits again, and the leading advantage has been maintained until the main lineup returns. Kellyan let Delfino play with the starting lineup, and Kobe played at the 3rd position. Odom held the ball at the top of the arc to organize, and Delfino, as a shooter, can better contain the Clippers' defense. This is also Kellyan's tactical demonstration to Finley. In the next game, during this period, Finley may have to play the role of Delfino. With his ability, he should be able to do more than Delfino. The score difference continues to grow. Bobby Simmons and Giltz can't defend Kobe. Delfino's running position can attract inside defense, and Odom can also attack the basket. At the end of the half, the score was 61-42, and the score difference had reached 19 points. In order to ensure that the 3-game winning streak was firmly in the bag, Kellyan was still not polite in the second half. After the opening test, he once again used the 5 major lineups to eat the Clippers to death. After halftime, Dunleavy still hadn't found a way to deal with the Lakers' big lineup and watch the Lakers continue to widen the gap. Anderson kept setting screens. Odom organized in the middle and could pass to Kobe to play one-on-one, pass to Butler to cut, or go straight to the basket. Except for Barnes in the right corner, he was out of position everywhere. Anderson received the inside pass and assisted, and then dunked. Kobe challenged Simmons, stepped out, broke through and caused Cameron to foul, and scored 2+1. Odom directly pulled up and made a 3-pointer, and the score difference widened to 27 points, and the game completely lost suspense. Wilson sighed. The Clippers may not be as strong as the Lakers, but this is not a reason for Dunleavy to have no way to deal with Kimmy's tactics. The 27-point gap is the distance Dunleavy lags behind Kimmy. Morris followed up, if it weren't for Kobe's injury, I believe the Lakers still have the possibility of impacting the upper half. Now they are 5 wins behind the Mavericks, which is more difficult. But even if they stay in the lower half, they are still opponents that no strong team in the West wants to face. Kobe plus Kobe can create many possibilities. 88:65. The Lakers entered the fourth quarter with a 23-point lead. The Clippers failed to counterattack in the first half of the fourth quarter. The Lakers still maintained a 20-plus lead and entered the last half of the quarter. The outcome of the game completely lost suspense. The final score was fixed at 115:98. While the Lakers won 3 consecutive victories, they also defeated their city rivals 3 times this season, and the team's record also caught up to 34-20. After the game, Kellyan also high-fived the players one by one. Compared with before, the current atmosphere of the Lakers is much better, especially the change in Kobe, which is even more noticed by the management. Since the Rockets lost to the Celtics at home in the second day's game, the Lakers record tied with the Rockets. The two teams have the same record, and they have won 1 and lost 1 against each other. The Lakers surpassed the Rockets with a higher winning rate against opponents in the same division, and returned to the 5th place in the West. It was agreed that after 3 consecutive wins, they could get rewards from Wanglefen, but Kellyan did not enjoy this blessing immediately. The team flew to Toronto the next day to challenge the King of the North Toronto Raptors. Sending Carter away, the loss of the Raptors is not to be said to be heavy. Mourning, one of the bargaining chips in the transaction, was unwilling to join an overseas team in the rebuilding period and insisted on a buyout. In the end, after giving up some economic benefits, he successfully bought out the contract and signed with the Miami Heat with a minimum salary to pursue his dream of winning the championship. The Raptors lost an all-star forward guard swingman who played dead in vain and only got 2 role players and 2 draft picks. The loss is simply too great. The severely injured Raptors were obviously at a disadvantage against the Lakers, and even at home, they were still at a disadvantage. Facing his favorite opponent in his life, Kobe scored 32 points and 6 assists. The data was somewhat ordinary, but the actual effect was much more important than what was reflected in the data. Under his activation, 6 Lakers players scored in double digits. The newly joined Finley played for 22 minutes, made 4 of 7 shots, 2 of 3 3-pointers, and scored 10 points. Compared with the Mavericks period, Finley had less ball rights, but in the Lakers' smooth offensive system, Finley felt that he was alive. He was not just a shooter in the game, his transfers and his running positions could help his teammates, which made him more present than scoring 104:118. The Lakers slayed the Dragon away, extending their winning streak to 4 games. 35-20. A more interesting statistic is that after Kellyan took office, the Lakers had 6 wins and 2 losses in games played by Kobe, including the fierce battle against the Spurs and 2 games against the Mavericks, both of which were also strong opponents. Kellyan would send a message to Wanglefen to record every game he won. After all, the rewards he could unlock from Wanglefen were closely related to his own team performance. 3 consecutive wins would get a kiss. 5 consecutive wins would get a deeper understanding, and 10 consecutive wins would probably get a home run, right? The Lakers played against the Hawks at home. Before the game, Wanglefen asked Kellyan for 2 more tickets to the front area of the infield. He was the light bulb again. Are all singers so idle? Kellyan personally handed out the tickets and couldn't help but complain when he saw Hebe. From the first meeting at the carnival to now, in less than 4 months, the number of times that he banged Wanglefen have hung out together, which he knows, has exceeded 4 times. They are all young people and have a good relationship, so it's harmless to make some jokes. It's not that I have a lot of free time, the key is that never is my first choice. I can put down everything to accompany her. He hugged Wanglefen, hung on Wanglefen like a koala, stuck out her tongue at Kellyan, and taunted him. Your actions really make me misunderstand. Kellyan rolled his eyes and handed over the ticket. You still talk about misunderstandings. The last time you touched my head, I was misunderstood so badly. Hebe got angry when this matter was mentioned. Kellyan did feel a little sorry for letting Hebe face this matter alone. It's just that there are no platforms like Weibo to speak out these days. Kellyanne is in the United States, and this matter has not been reported in the United States. He can't make a special trip back to China to clarify that he and I are not in a relationship, right? Wouldn't that make things worse and more likely to arouse suspicion? Forget it, it's my fault. After the game, I'll treat you to a meal as compensation. Chapter 88 China Derby. At the end of the season, most teams in the league have made clear their goals. The Hawks are aiming to trade new players and play badly this season. In the remaining season, they hope to fall to the bottom of the league as much as possible without losing too embarrassingly, and strive to get a good pick in the draft lottery. Facing such an opponent, Kellyanne felt that there was enough room for error, so he changed his style of play in the game and focused on practicing the offensive tactics of 1 big and 4 small. Michael Finley replaced Barnes and appeared in the team's small ball lineup, and the team's offensive threat was further enhanced. Although Finley's speed is not fast, he has been immersed in Nelson's running and gunning system for many years, and he has his own set of off-ball running on the offensive end. Many times, by going around 2 screens and adjusting his steps, the defender will be inexplicably pulled away by him, and he will capture the space for shooting. And when counter-attacking on a fast break, Finley can also follow up under the cover of his teammates in the front row, just like the back row in volleyball, and deliver a fatal blow. Hawks head coach Stotts is essentially a head coach who is strong on offense, but weak on defense. Both teams played very openly on offense, and the score was rising all the way. Fans who came to Staples to watch this game will definitely feel that the game is worth the price of admission. The element of offensive battle, 5 best slam dunks, smooth integration of new players, head coach's work, and Kobe's high score are all complete. Even Wang Lifen and Hebe, 2 pseudo fans, watched this game with relish and found it very interesting. Of course, the most important thing is that the Lakers won the game smoothly with a score of 128-117, achieving 5 consecutive victories. 36-20. In addition to Lakers fans, the Hawks management, especially the team owner Anthony Ressler and general manager Larry Sander, also paid close attention to this game. However, they were not concerned about whether the Hawks could win, but Kellyanne's coaching ability. The interview results were very good. The 2 people have already regarded Kellyanne as the first choice for the team's head coach next season. For this reason, Anthony Ressler even asked someone to investigate Wang Lifen's information. Last time in Atlanta, I suddenly saw Kellyanne approaching a girl, and I was not fully prepared. This time, I even collected first-hand information about Wang Lifen's childhood with her family to the United States, her admission to Los Angeles to study for a master's degree, and even when her period came, and what brand of sanitary napkins she used. Those who know that his target is Kellyanne, and he wants to know both himself and the enemy. Those who don't know think that he wants to seduce Wang Lifen. Kimmy is still the acting head coach of the Lakers. Jerry Buss should still have other ideas, otherwise he wouldn't have been given a permanent position until now. After watching the whole game, Anthony Ressler said, "We should keep in touch with Kimmy for a long time to ensure that, if Kimmy leaves the Lakers, we are the first to contact him. I have contacted Kimmy, and he doesn't want to talk about leaving the Lakers for the time being," Larry Sander reported. He said for the time being, which means there is something to talk about. Find out what he really needs. Is it salary or team authority? At the end of each season, many teams that have not achieved their season goals have to change their head coaches. Kellyanne has performed so well this season, and he is a Chinese, so he has the commercial value from China. It is inevitable that other teams will be eyeing him. The Hawks have a very poor lineup, and there is no core player around whom they can rebuild. In the Kimmy battle, they are definitely at a disadvantage. Perhaps the only thing they can do is to show better sincerity to impress Kellyanne. Although Kellyanne is quite good at using a small lineup and has led the team to victory after victory, Kupchak still tried to trade for another inside player for the team before the trade deadline to prepare for the playoffs. However, inside players are really valuable these days. There is a saying that as long as you have the strength to fight a few fouls and don't give 2+1, you can have a meal. Kupchak was very busy, but in the end he failed to help the team get a meat shield. So far, unless Kellyanne can find some fish that slip through the net, the Lakers can only rely on this lineup to play in the playoffs. Although he has only been in office for less than 2 months, Kellyanne has become accustomed to Kupchak coming to him with a bitter face and saying things have not been done. To put it bluntly, he can only get some scraps from other teams or sign some players who have been abandoned by other teams. Even Finley, the surprise, was sent to him by the Mavericks themselves. It's good that the trade deadline has passed, at least the team has stabilized, and there will be no more people's minds changing. On March 2nd, it was another China derby. The Lakers came to the Toyota Center to challenge the Houston Mosaic team away. Not only did CCTV broadcast this game as expected, but TNT also arranged a national live broadcast because of the relationship between Kobe and McGrady on the two teams respectively. Before the game, the media predicted the outcome, and most people were optimistic about the Lakers. The Lakers, who had won 5 consecutive games, were in high spirits. Kobe showed a good state after the All-Star game. Kellyanne had many ingenious ideas in the game, and many experts praised Kellyanne's on-the-spot dispatch. On the other hand, although the Mosaic team has a Yeo-McGrady combination, the role players are average, and Van Gundy is rigid in using people. Various problems are restricting the Mosaic team. Even many Chinese Mosaic fans hope that Kellyanne will return to the Mosaic team as the head coach to replace Van Gundy. Because it is a Chinese derby, CCTV arranged a special team to do on-site commentary and interviews. After becoming the head coach of the team, Kellyanne basically does not have any communication with the opponent before the game. However, CCTV is still very face-saving. Yeo Ming and Kellyanne, the protagonists of the derby, came to the side of the court together to accept the interview of CCTV reporters. The two of you are also old friends. Kellyanne first entered the NBA and cooperated with Yeo. Now he has become the head coach of the Lakers and has led the team to achieve good results. Does Yeo have anything to say? We want this game. The host's question was a bit silly, and Yeo Ming replied humorously, "Wow. You don't miss the old feelings at all." Kellyanne cooperated exaggeratedly, and the two people smiled heartily in tacit understanding. Seriously, I'm very happy to see Kellyanne making achievements in the Lakers. Having more faces in the NBA is beneficial to the development of Chinese basketball as a whole. This is not just the job of our players, but also the coaching team. I hope that in the future, more young people like Kellyanne can go abroad, experience more avant-garde basketball culture, and learn more advanced basketball tactics. Yeo Ming looked down at Kellyanne and the reporter and expressed his expectations. Thank you. I also hope that my experience can encourage a wave of people to choose to go out, learn, and improve. Kellyanne followed Yeo Ming's words and said, I think our eyes should not be placed on China, but on Asia, the NBA, Europe, and even Australia. There are too many things worth learning from us. The two people tacitly guided the topic to the more macro development of Chinese basketball and did not dwell on the game itself. Okay, thank you Yeo, and thank you Kellyanne. I hope the two teams can bring us a wonderful game. After the interview, there were only 10 minutes left before the game started. Kellyanne took the time to arrange some tactical details, and then the whole venue went dark, and the DJ on the scene began to introduce the players to enter. As Yeo Ming won the jump ball and passed the ball to Elston, the game officially began. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Battle for 5th place in the West. Thanks to the book friend, 18 years have passed for the 400-point reward. 33. Alston dribbled across half court. He passed the ball to McGrady on the wing. McGrady held the ball on the wing and faced Butler's closed defense, looking for an opportunity to pass the ball to Yeo Ming. Anderson frantically circled forward. Odom was ready to double team at any time from behind, and Kellyanne prepared a big gift for Yeo Ming. Yeo Ming pulled to the corner to receive the ball. This position was not originally a single position that a big center was used to, but Yeo Ming could directly attack from this position. Odom filled in the position in time and double teamed with Anderson. Yeo Ming made a fake shot with his hand, raised to the basket, followed by a hard shot with one step to the face of the basket, carrying Anderson's defense and sending the ball into the basket. Oh, it's amazing. Zhang Heli praised him generously. He originally thought that it would be a better choice to pass the ball to Bo Wen, who was in an open position, but Yao Ming chose to play 1 against 2 and sent the ball into the basket. This is a talent. Speaking of low post defense alone, Yao is really top 3 in the league, and he is also good at mid-range. Monty Williams looked at Kellyan and was embarrassed. Such an inside player with huge offensive power is a nemesis for the Lakers, who have no inside players. In this regard, Kellyan used the way that coaches from all walks of life in the league defended Yao Ming in the past: go around to compress the receiving space, double team after receiving the ball, and try to force him to pass the ball. Of course, what is more important is to find a way to speed up the game on the offensive end, increase the number of rounds, and accelerate his physical consumption. Atkins passed the ball across half court and passed it to Odom. Anderson immediately mentioned the high pick and roll, helping Odom break through Bowen and come to the free throw line. After attracting Yao Ming's defense, he sent a straight pass. Kobe, who was coming down, received the ball and attacked the basket, causing Jim Jackson to foul. Kobe made both free throws to catch up. After Kami took office, the Lakers' performance improved, and the biggest contributor was Odom. Kimi magnified Odom's comprehensive technical advantages, allowing him to have more ball possession on the offensive end, to choose whether to pass the ball or attack, and on the defensive end, letting him carry people just stimulated his center's physique and point guard skills. Barkley from the TNT commentary team praised Odom and pointed out his great contribution on the offensive end. Jerry Sloan once said when commenting on Odom, "It is very difficult to design tactics to match Odom's talent." This sentence is a bit of a pun, which not only points out his extraordinary talent, but also points out his problem, that he is comprehensive, but lacks the stable scoring methods that a superstar should have. In view of this, Kellyan simply let Odom support the team in various tasks. The team's point guard has no organizational ability, so they simply let Odom control the ball. The team's inside line can't hold up, so they simply let Odom hold up. Odom can't be the main attacker, so let Kobe and Butler come, and he is responsible for occasionally playing big against small, occasionally stealing chicken from the outside, and occasionally playing pick and roll to make a mid-range shot. The Mosaic team attacked. Yao Ming pulled out to play pick and roll with McGrady, and the excellent pick and roll quality won McGrady a comfortable shooting space, and the latter made a long two-pointer. If it were in the past, after McGrady scored, Kobe would probably go up and return one. But this time, Kobe didn't rush to fall to the low post and play one-on-one. Instead, he took the initiative to ask Anderson for a pick and roll, attracted Yao Ming to come out, and sent a crotch pass. Anderson received the ball and faced Jim Jackson for a layup. Although the ball didn't go in, it caused Jim Jackson's second foul. Bang! Anderson missed the first free throw, and Mosaic made more substitutions. Wesley replaced Jim Jackson, and McGrady was pushed to the small forward position. Kellyan smiled unconsciously, and now the Mosaic team is in trouble. Wesley was supposed to be a combo guard, or at worst, an outside shooter with the height of a point guard. He can bring the ball across half court, run outside to find opportunities to shoot, and his outside hit rate is just 35%, which is above the passing line by the standard of a shooter. His advantage is that among players of the same height, his speed is not slow, his strength advantage is obvious, and sometimes he can score some goals that are not opportunities. But no matter what, you let him partner with Alston in the backline and choose between Kobe and Butler on the defensive end, which is a very cruel thing. Height, strength, and athletic ability are all unsatisfactory. This also clearly reflects a problem of the Mosaic team. The lineup is too extreme. Except for Yao Ming and McGrady, the others are more than one level behind. Van Gundy prefers stable and error-free veterans in his use of players. He has no habit of reusing young people, and the team lineup is very deformed. The following game was included in the rhythm that Kellyan expected. Yao Ming worked hard to carry in the interior, and the Lakers could not effectively limit his offense in the interior. Of course, there were not many teams in the league that could do this. At the same time, the outside line of the Mosaic team was completely suppressed by the Lakers. Kobe could get whatever he wanted against Wesley. If you change McGrady to defend, Butler will be just as brutal against Wesley. Kobe and Butler scored 16 points together in the first quarter, helping the Lakers to lead the Mosaic team by 4 points at 29-25. The score difference was not big, but that was based on the fact that Yao Ming played for less than 11 minutes in the first quarter, and McGrady played the entire first quarter. Van Gundy's insistence on the Yao-McGrady combination to cover the loss of other players on the team was not a long-term strategy. Yao Ming and McGrady are not good at physical fitness. If they continue, the Lakers will definitely have the advantage. In the second quarter, the Mosaic team asked Jim Jackson, who played only 2 minutes in the first quarter, to lead the substitute lineup. Van Gundy knew that this period was the advantage of the Lakers and hoped that the team would stabilize the defense and try to get more rest time for the main lineup while not letting the score difference reach double digits. At this stage, Killian replaced the team's most powerful small lineup, Eddie House, Finley, Kobe, Butler, and Odom. Killian asked Kobe to stay on the court and continue to play. It was obviously aimed at Wesley. Kobe and Butler scored a lot of goals against him in today's game. They should want to widen the score difference in one go. However, this will easily cause physical problems later. It depends on whether the players can hold on. Zhang Heli saw the Lakers' killer move and worried about the Mosaic team. With Yao Ming, he was still speaking more from the perspective of the Mosaic team at this time and had not yet transformed into Weeping Bryant. He took the initiative to ask for the ball outside the 3-point line, then bent down and adjusted his dribbling rhythm. The Lakers players who were familiar with Kobe's habits all moved to the weak side. Kobe's body suddenly trembled, his shoulders swayed to the left and right, his body suddenly leaned to the right, and his left foot, which was cushioned, had already stepped to the right like lightning, while at the same time, he also dribbled the ball with his right hand. Jim Jackson shifted his center of gravity to the left and stepped out with his right foot to block Kobe. Kobe's foot, which had already stepped out, suddenly stopped, relying on the power gained from the ground, and his entire body, which had already moved to the right, suddenly stopped. The ball that had been shot out bounced quickly on the ground and returned to his hand. With his feet crossed, he slapped the basketball again, and Kobe's body accelerated again. Before Wesley could fill in the position on the side, he flashed past him and rushed into the basket alone. Facing Mutombo standing in front of him with his arms open, Kobe rushed over at full speed without a trace of hesitation. Kobe stood up, grabbed the basketball with both hands, and lifted it behind his head vigorously. His feet seemed to be stepping on springs, and he flew up, bent his knees, and hooked his feet, and dunked towards the basket in front of him regardless of everything. Bang! The basket screamed loudly, showing its deformed body in pain. Kobe grabbed the red basket with both hands, pulled it hard, bent his arms, and arrogantly made a standing and upward movement, then jumped down, bounced a few times on the floor, and roared loudly. Although he can still show his prowess on the defensive end occasionally, it is a pipe dream to really hope that Mutombo can defend the basket when the team loses the perimeter. Chapter 90 When the Superstar Shines. Kobe's dunk boosted the morale of the Lakers. The team played a 13:2 attack wave in 3 minutes, widening the gap to 15 points. Van Gundy was forced to call a timeout and replace McGrady after the timeout. Instead, Killian played Cheyenne G horse racing with Van Gundy at this time. House, Kobe, Butler, Odom left the court. Atkins, Barnes, Cook, and Diop came on the court. The Lakers returned to the regular formation, with Barnes responsible for guarding McGrady. Barnes is 201 centimeters tall and weighs 102 kilograms. He is not inferior in confrontation, has plenty of physical strength, is highly motivated in defense, and plays for his life when he is on the court. Such a defender is just right to deal with McGrady. The continuous shaking failed to break through Barnes' defense. McGrady stretched out his hand to call for Uncle Huo to pull out for a pick and roll. After flashing out of the space, he made a 2-point shot at the right arc. 29:42. Looking back, Atkins used a pick and roll by Brian Cook to break into the basket and lay up the ball to return the favor. After the Mosaic team lost Yao Ming, this interior defense is also a big problem. Kenny Smith shook his head and said, Mutombo can temporarily hold up, but it is really difficult to pin hopes on this veteran for a long time. Mutombo's official birth age is 66, but in fact, no one can verify the authenticity of his age. Age is the natural enemy of athletes. When you reach a certain age, no matter how good your self-discipline is, and how much you take care of yourself, you will feel inadequate on the court. Especially as the season progresses, you will find that your recovery after exercise is getting more and more difficult, and it is easy to find yourself holding your knees and breathing heavily on the sidelines. Signing him as a water dispenser manager, usually training with a team as a sparring partner, and coming out to hold up when there are injuries is fine, but directly included in the regular rotation, averaging 15 minutes per game, Kellyan felt that the Mosaic team was abusing the elderly. On the court, McGrady continued to suppress Barnes, and passed Barnes with an unstoppable first step. A domineering one-handed slam dunk was a response to Kobe's dunk just now. Looking back, Finley missed the shot after the pick and roll. He is now more of an off-ball shooter, and his offense with the ball has indeed declined sharply. The Mosaic team began to chase points under the leadership of McGrady. However, as the Lakers deliberately slowed down the pace and fought hard on defense, the scoring efficiency was not high. Sierra and Padgett were not good at seizing opportunities. The Lakers boldly double-teamed McGrady, causing some trouble for his offense. This is also the point where Van Gundy was criticized by fans. Kellyan has only been in the Lakers for a short time, and he has already found useful role players such as Anderson, Barnes, and House, while the Mosaic team has few useful substitutes. Until the official timeout, the Lakers still enjoyed a 10-point lead. The Lakers replaced their main players. Kellyan called everyone together and said, "Very good, the situation on the court is very favorable to us now. Next, we must not relax the double teaming of Yao Ming and consume him as much as possible. The Mosaic team only has 2 points. If they are all used up, there will be no more bullets. Karen, I'll leave McGrady to you. Don't let him break into the basket easily and force him to shoot from mid-range and long distance. Lama, you are responsible for providing protection for Karen. If McGrady breaks into the restricted area, double team him when necessary. Kobe, you take care of Bowen or Juwan Howard at that time. Alston just needs to prevent his three-pointer. If they want to try to break through, let them try." Kobe and everyone nodded repeatedly. Under Kellyan's defensive arrangement, they were confident of winning the game tonight. After the timeout, the game continued. Yao Ming scored strongly under the defense of Anderson and Odom. Yao Ming's physical strength was just full when he came on the court. 39:47. Kobe controlled the ball and roamed around the top of the arc, trying to find a chance to break through. His teammates kept running and changing the defensive formation of the Mosaic team. Kobe stretched his left foot several times in a row, making Jim Jackson, who was defending him, nervous. Suddenly, he took a step back, and his body center of gravity quickly rose. Jackson's heart tightened, and his body jumped up involuntarily to block the shot. But what made him desperate was that after his body had risen into the air, Kobe's feet were still firmly on the ground. Facing Jackson's falling body, Kobe jumped decisively. Before Jackson's body pressed on his right hand, the ball quickly transferred to his left hand and shot it out before his body lost balance. Sure. Beep 2 sounds sounded at the same time. Facing the Mosaic team's counterattack, Kobe responded with a beautiful 3+1, showing his dominance. 39:51. What's more terrible is that Jim Jackson had 3 fouls, and Van Gundy didn't dare to replace him. Yao Ming blocked Anderson in the paint, preventing him from going around to the front, and successfully received the ball. Then he continued to exert force, squeezed Anderson away, and forced a hook shot, but was interfered by Odom, and failed to hit. Odom took off continuously, protected the rebound, and made an offense-defense transition as soon as possible. It doesn't matter whether he can find an opportunity this time. It forces Yao Ming to speed up and run back to the half court. The strategic significance of tossing Yao Ming has been achieved. Kellyan has made a lot of designs on tactical details. Many seemingly useless details actually affect the game itself bit by bit. With 3 fouls, Jackson was somewhat restrained on the defensive end and dared not take action. He was forced to break into the basket by Karen Butler, and Yao Ming was fouled when he made up for the defense. Van Gundy had no choice but to replace Jackson with Wesley again. He felt that the team was obviously suppressed, and he was unable to break free. Usually, if a head coach has this idea, it means that the team is really in a very passive situation. This is true. The Lakers' fast-paced offense and defense conversion made it difficult for the Mosaic team to cope. In the positional battle, Kobe and Butler always had one person facing the shorter Wesley, and they also had an absolute advantage in singles. In contrast, the Mosaic team could only rely on the power of the Yao-McGrady combination to fight piecemeal, and the game entered a 2-on-5 situation. In this case, Yao Ming and McGrady seemed a little lacking in quality. The Lakers continued to widen the gap, and at the end of the half, the team led by 19 points. 44-63. For Van Gundy's team, a game with a 19-point deficit was basically a gamble. His team was tenacious but lacked changes, especially in the on-the-spot adjustment. It was a typical case of late realization. In the third quarter, the Mosaic team significantly strengthened the offense of the outside players. Alston, McGrady, and Jackson took turns to play, but the hit rate was. After the halftime break, the Lakers players seemed to have cooled down, and they missed several shots in a row. In the first 3 minutes of the third quarter, the Mosaic team only scored 1 goal, and the Lakers didn't score a single goal. The game fell into a stalemate. Van Gundy was scratching his head anxiously on the sidelines. He finally waited for the Lakers' touch to decline, but his players didn't live up to expectations. Seeing that his shots ended up being missed again and again, he was so anxious that he wanted to rush up and shoot himself. The Lakers, who were leading, had capital to waste. It would take time for the Mosaic team to catch up. At the critical moment, the superstar helped Van Gundy to survive. Yao Ming's clever pass helped Jackson easily hit the 3-point line. The Toyota Center was suddenly filled with cheers, and the fans in the audience cheered. Finally, the score difference was narrowed to 14 points. 49-63. The Lakers attacked. Odom and Kobe played a pass-cut cooperation. Kobe attacked the basket from close range and shot under the interference of Yao Ming. The ball circled the basket twice, but still did not go in. He was so angry that he cursed. He took the rebound one step ahead, and Yao Ming made a long pass. At this time, only McGrady and Butler were running wildly in the Lakers half-court to avoid being beaten 2+1. Butler stepped back in time and watched McGrady jump into the air twice inside the free throw line and complete a dunk. 51-63. After a 7-0 climax, the Mosaic team closed the score. Killian decisively called a timeout, replaced Butler with Finley, and pushed Kobe to the small forward position. Chapter 91. The strongest forward guard swingman. After several rounds of transfers, the Lakers passing made the Mosaic's defensive formation a little messy. Finley threw the ball into Odom's line, and Bowen behind him immediately came over. Low post strong play is not Odom's strong point. He protected the ball and shook it a few times. Under the pressure, he had no choice but to pass the ball to Kobe standing on the right baseline. Kobe received the ball, made a fake shot, then rushed to the baseline, then turned around, dribbled the ball, and took a hard step inside. He stuck Wesley behind him, shook his body, forced Wesley's center of gravity to his upper body, and then suddenly jumped up, held the ball with his right hand, and gently pushed the ball into the basket. This singles was completed entirely by his own strength. He shook his body, turned around after a strong rush, and then shook into the inside line, and then with a good touch, he sent the ball into the basket. This series of actions was very coherent. Wesley had no way to do anything, and could only raise his hands and sigh at the ball. Kobe issued a challenge, so McGrady naturally had to take it. Kobe took a step back, but immediately raised his chest and leaned forward. The fake and reel made McGrady, who was about to use the force to accelerate, a little confused. Kobe took the opportunity to push forward again, completely controlling McGrady within the 2-point line, and his hands kept dancing to interfere with McGrady's pass. McGrady took another step back, and Kobe continued to put pressure on him. McGrady turned around suddenly and made a fake move to dribble to the right and pull up for a jump shot, but suddenly twisted his feet, dribbled the ball at his waist, past Kobe, and stepped into the inside. Anderson came over at high speed to defend, facing McGrady, who had taken the last step and jumped up and stretched out his hand to cover him. McGrady suddenly retracted his waist, and the basketball that had been raised high suddenly retracted. He switched from his right hand to his left hand and paused unbelievably in the air. His body straightened up again. At this moment, McGrady had passed the left basket and came to the right basket. The ball appeared again, and with a hook of his left hand, the ball rolled upward. Sure. The ball turned twice in the basket and finally fell. Yeah. Toyota Center was filled with huge cheers, and almost everyone was surprised and impressed by this wonderful goal. McGrady's reverse layup, after passing the opponent, was so beautiful, and his strong ability to stay in the air was once again fully demonstrated in the eyes of the audience. Great. So beautiful, a small windmill reverse layup can actually go in. It's so wonderful. Barkley praised loudly. Incredible. It's so elegant. McGrady seemed to be completely in his eyes when he paused in control, as if in slow motion. Oh. So beautiful. Let's take a look at how he scored just now. Kenny Smith couldn't help but admire. The huge screen of Toyota Center immediately replayed the wonderful goal just now from all angles, and the audience continued to applaud. Kobe glanced at McGrady standing at the free throw line. The latter immediately felt Kobe's gaze, glared, and raised his head to Kobe in protest. After catching the ball from the bottom corner to the outside of the 3-point line, Kobe stretched out his hand and made a gesture, and his teammates quickly ran according to the tactics. McGrady adjusted his breathing, his feet beat lightly and rhythmically, and his eyes were fixed on Kobe's face. Kobe slowly bent down, grabbed the ball with his right hand, and gently hung it in the air. His body trembled suddenly, and his left foot had already stepped to the right. At the same time, his right hand holding the ball dribbled to the right, and his whole body rushed out like a cheetah. McGrady's center of gravity immediately caught up, and his feet moved quickly horizontally, but after 2 steps, he still couldn't stop Kobe's cut. Yao Ming under the basket made up from the inside. Kobe jumped up like a spring from 2 meters away from the bottom line of the basket, holding the ball with both hands, and reaching towards the basket. At this moment, Yao Ming has already stood in position, and the whole person is like a mountain pressing towards Kobe. Just when Yao Ming's big hand is about to touch the basketball, Kobe spreads his hands, holds the ball in his left hand, passes by Yao Ming's ear, and lightly pushes the ball to the backboard with his fingertips. The basketball lightly hits the backboard and falls steadily into the basket. Kobe landed on his buttocks, reducing the momentum brought by inertia. Before he had time to put on a cold expression, he was pulled up by his teammates. These teammates are really ignorant. They don't even let people pretend. Kellyan showed a meaningful smile on the sidelines. As a coach, he doesn't like players to fall into singles on the court, but he has to cheer for one beautiful goal after another. McGrady came to the right with the ball, and Kobe immediately came over. Without waiting for Kobe to stand firm, he quickly moved to the left side horizontally. Kobe didn't dare to neglect it and followed closely. McGrady suddenly accelerated, and Kobe accelerated to follow closely. McGrady paused suddenly, and his right hand holding the ball swung behind him. He dribbled behind his back and instantly reached his left hand. His body had already adjusted its direction. He accelerated to the left and actually threw Kobe away. Kobe immediately shifted his center of gravity back and saw McGrady had already jumped up, and then he moved forward to block. The ball had already been shot, and Kobe was just a step slower and looked back at the basket. Swish. The ball went into the net. McGrady clenched his right hand and waved it in front of his chest very vigorously. Those who didn't know would think that the Mosaic team was leading by 12 points. The 2 people who were ranked as the 4 major shooting guards were pushed to the small forward position respectively, and they were solo on the court, which was beneficial to the Lakers. The rhythm of the outside player's offense is often faster. Yao Ming was trapped in the process of running back and forth on the court, and his physical energy consumption was not much less than that of his own low post hard digging. In the last attack of the 3rd quarter, McGrady took the ball and passed it to Elston. Under Atkins' tight defense, the latter could not organize the offense at all, so he had to pass the ball back to McGrady. As soon as McGrady received the ball, Kobe immediately came over. McGrady shook his back and suddenly started to squeeze into the Lackers inside line. As soon as he took a step, he was double teamed by Butler and Odom. McGrady was caught off guard and was immediately surrounded. Alston and Jim Jackson saw that it was not good and immediately went to help. Snap. Kobe saw that McGrady was not prepared and slapped the basketball that McGrady was holding tightly. McGrady's hands were empty and he lost control of the ball. The ball bounced on the ground and rolled to the top of the arc on the outside line. Uncle Huo saw it clearly and bent down to rush towards the ball. A figure suddenly appeared in front of him, just shook for a moment, and then disappeared. But the ball also disappeared from Uncle Huo's sight. Uncle Huo stood up and turned his head to look. Butler's huge number 31 was gradually fading away in front of him. Kenny Smith immediately shouted, in the last attack of the third quarter, the Lackers suddenly changed their defensive tactics and used a zone defense. After McGrady broke into the inside, he was immediately double teamed by 3 Lackers and the ball was lost. After Butler got the ball, he immediately rushed to the Mosaic team's half court. Oh. There was no one on the Lackers. It seems that Butler is going to show his performance. While Kenny Smith was quickly reporting, Butler had already rushed into the 3-point line. He turned his head and looked behind him. He realized that no one was following him. His speed accelerated again, took 2 steps forward, grabbed the ball with one hand, and raised it high, flew up, leaned his upper body backward, bent his feet slightly, and then slowly spread his whole body. With his right hand holding the ball high, he dunked forward very naturally. Bang! The basket made a slight sound, and the Nets also became excited. 71:85. The Lackers entered the fourth quarter with a 14-point lead. Chapter 92. I would rather be a villain than a tool. Entering the fourth quarter with a 14-point advantage, Kellyanne was sitting on the diote. On the other hand, Van Gundy was under great pressure. No one wanted to lose to his former assistant, let alone Kellyanne, who was fired by him. The role players were average, so Van Gundy decided to stagger the use time of McGrady and Yao Ming, letting Yao Ming appear at the beginning of the fourth quarter and attack the weakness of the Lackers inside line. The lack of manpower in the inside line is a natural weakness of the Lackers, and it is indeed a wide door to face Yao Ming's powerful inside line. However, Kellyanne targeted the source and decisively arranged House and Elfino to double-team Sierra, who had a deviation in passing awareness. He did not ask for a steal, but only to delay Sierra's passing time. While Diop was blocking in the inside line, Barnes on the outside paid close attention to double-teaming Yao Ming, and once Yao Ming got the ball, he would double-team immediately. At this time in Huaxia, in the university cafeteria, the male students gathered around the TV in 3 layers, cheering whenever the Mosaic team scored, and regretting whenever Yao Ming didn't score. The less qualified ones even cursed. As the game progressed, the regrets became louder. The female students who passed by didn't need to see the TV screen to know that the Mosaic team lost. After all, Kellyanne is also a Chinese. You won't be like that, right? Some girls were puzzled by the boys' dejected reaction. Aren't we all the same people? What do you know? Seeing that they were going to lose, the boy was in a bad mood and replied with disdain. They are all Chinese, but the feelings that the Chinese people have for them are still different. Wang Zizi entered the NBA earlier than Yao Ming and never made the Chinese people worry about him. Battelle was even the first Asian to win an NBA championship ring, but not many people were proud of this ring either. Yao Ming entered the NBA and has gradually reached his current position. Many NBA fans have been cultivated since he entered the NBA. Unless a domestic guard who plays like Kobe or McGrady enters the NBA, it is difficult for anyone to touch Yao Ming. As for Kellyanne, his situation is more complicated. First of all, before he became an assistant coach of the Lackers, he was completely unknown to the fans. Even before the fans had fully known him, he became the head coach of the Lackers at a lightning speed. For fans, it is like a relative who suddenly came back from abroad and graduated from Harvard. You will show off to the outside world that my 20th came back from abroad, but it is definitely not as intimate as the relatives who grew up with you. Secondly, compared with the players, there is a natural sense of distance between the coach and the players. Just like compared with loyal ministers and good ministers like Zhu Jiang and Sun Yu, most boys must be more looking forward to becoming unparalleled warriors like Zhao Yun and Ma Chao. It's the same reason. Even if he was regarded as a villain by fans in his own country, it still failed to stop Kelyan from leading the Lacquers to victory. Yao Ming's physical decline in the fourth quarter became the Achilles heel of the Mosaic team, and the Mosaic team missed consecutive attacks. Whenever the Mosaic team missed a shot, Odom would immediately counterattack after grabbing the rebound, and Yao Ming would be even more tired if he ran back. If he couldn't run back, the Lacquers would have more players to play with fewer players. This open conspiracy eventually dragged down the Mosaic team. The final score was 101-114. The Lacquers won the away game, extending their lead over the Mosaic team to 2 games, and regained their 5th place in the Western Conference, 37-20. Although they were gradually moving away from maintaining their 6th place in the Western Conference and catching up with the Supersonics, Kelyan didn't think it was time to control the ranking. The Lacquers were in high spirits, and a good result in one go could also improve their reputation. After the game, Kelyan was invited to Yao Ming's home. Kelyan was a coach for the Mosaic team before. Although he and Yao Ming were just colleagues at work and their personal relationship was average, they were both Chinese working in the United States after all, so there must be some care. Kelyan had been a guest here before, and had drunk the chicken soup cooked by my mother that Yao Ming had praised countless times. Come, try my mother's cooking skills. I'm not bragging to you, it must be better than in the restaurant. Fang Feng bumped her son, and said with a smile, just make do with it, Zioke, you just eat it. Kelyan took a bite. Whether it tasted good or not was another matter, but it was authentic. Oh, auntie, you don't know, I really haven't eaten such authentic local cuisine for a long time. My girlfriend and I have eaten in many Chinese restaurants in Los Angeles, and only 2 of them have authentic Cantonese cuisine. See, Kelyan said so. Mom, don't be so modest. Yao Ming continued to support his mother. Zioke, do you like local food? Are you from Shanghai, too? It's about a 2-hour drive. I'm from Suzhou. Oh, that's very close. Kelyan's mouth was always busy throughout the meal. He kept being served food. It was not good to refuse, but he couldn't eat if he didn't refuse. Finally, he burped, and Fang Feng stopped. Kelyan was a little full, so he helped to collect the dishes and chopsticks, and then sat on the sofa, and didn't want to move. Knowing that Yao Ming and Kelyan had something to talk about, Fang Feng made 2 cups of tea for them to relieve the greasiness, turned around and went back to the room, leaving the living room to Yao Ming and Kelyan. I thought you were very thoughtful when you were in the Mosaic team before, but being the head coach of the Lacquers in 2 years is really beyond my expectation. I thought you would be buried for many years, Yao Ming said. The environment in the NBA is indeed not very friendly to Chinese people, which is well reflected in Yao Ming. For example, in terms of the referee's whistle scale, Yao Ming is generally at a disadvantage. Kelyan has always been a distinguished guest in the assistant coaching team and the Mavericks, the Suns and even the Lakers. That is, Tom Janovich trusted him and gave him many opportunities to perform. He won the support of Hamblin and Kobe before Tom Janovich was admitted to the hospital. In addition, Jim Buss did not want Phil Jackson, who was from Gina's faction, to return. Kupchak wanted to keep his authority, so he chose Kelyan between Phil Jackson and Kelyan. The 2 of them jointly pushed Kelyan to the position. Unexpected, but reasonable. Kelyan said confidently. The Basketball Management Center asked me to ask you if you would like to consider working for the national team. Yao Ming suddenly asked. Kelyan's eyes widened. Isn't Jonas doing a good job? If you are not a coach, you can't give up your NBA job and return to China, right? Yao Ming said quickly. They want you to be a consultant, to help make some on-the-spot adjustments during the competition. Just like the dream team in the 2004 Athens Olympics, the head coach was Larry Brown and Popovich was an assistant coach. The leaders of the Basketball Management Center may also know that Kelyan has established a firm foothold in the NBA and cannot be an assistant coach for Jonas, so they changed his title to consultant. If it is really beneficial to the country, even if it means sacrificing some personal rest time, Kelyan does not care about the titles of consultant and assistant coach. He does not care about these feathers, but the problem is that it is not suitable. First, Jonas is in charge of the national team. What will he think if you rashly insert a consultant? Especially Kellyanne is not arranged by some leader to join the coaching team to gain experience points, but he is also a well-known new coach. If the two have a disagreement, Jonas is still worried that Kellyanne will remonstrate with him. Second, a coach like Kellyanne who has his own clear tactical style is not suitable for the national team, at least not suitable for part-time leadership of the national team. He is a coach who needs to find players according to his own tactics, while the national team still selects the strongest players in the country into the national team and then runs them in. It is not ruled out that there are parties among the various CBA teams, and whether the leaders will make decisions on the player list, etc. Kellyanne has no school, no faction, and no foundation, and he cannot cover this situation. Basketball is not about fighting and killing, it is about human relationships and worldly wisdom. Kellyanne opened his mouth, wanting to say something but stopped. Yao Ming immediately understood his choice and waved his hand to indicate, "I understand what you mean. Just pretend I never told you this. If there really comes a day when Chinese basketball needs me to do something, I will definitely do my best. But I really don't want to be regarded as a mascot, a propaganda tool, a hype traffic point. Do you understand?" Although he has lived who lives and has seen some dark things outside the court, Kellyanne really hates it from the bottom of his heart and does not want to be a tool in the hands of the superiors. Chapter 93. The end of the ball is the shark. He led the team to 6 consecutive wins. He scored 114 points against the Houston Rockets, a team recognized as a defensive powerhouse in the league. Yao Ming, who everyone imagined as his nemesis, did not perform very well against the Lakers. All these factors have made Kellyanne's reputation continue to rise, and he has received many compliments. Even Nelson, who Kellyanne considers his mentor, gave a high evaluation when talking about Kellyanne in an interview. "This Lakers team is a masterpiece, a truly outstanding team. Just like an orchestra, the Lakers can always play perfect chords, always maintain tacit cooperation, and have a good sense of timing. The NBA gathers the best coaches in the world, and Kobe is one of the best. In my opinion, without the exploration and changes made by this new generation of coaches, basketball will stagnate." In response to Nelson's praise, Kellyanne quickly responded, "Nelson is the coach who has had the most profound influence on me. He gave me a glimpse of the new era of basketball that is about to come. If you want to find a crystal ball that can predict the future direction of the basketball world 30 years ago, you will find it. It is in Nelson's tactical manual." In March, the Lakers welcomed back Shaquille O'Neal, who left the team in the summer, at home. The Heat, ranked first in the Eastern Conference, was also the favorite team to end the Lakers' winning streak. The feud between Kobe and O'Neal made this game extremely popular and was temporarily included in ESPN's broadcast plan. Everyone hoped to see another wonderful performance at the level of the Christmas game. However, the reason why an upset is that it cannot happen every day. David can only defeat Goliath once if he makes all the right decisions. Compared to being a dragon slayer, perhaps more people are willing to be the dragon with the strongest power. O'Neal, who went all out, told the Lakers what cruelty is in the first quarter. Diop, who had caused great trouble to O'Neal in the low post defense in the last round, lasted less than 3 minutes before O'Neal made 2 fouls and beat him down. Without Mim's buffer, Anderson, who was used as a backhand, was forced to step forward to fight, but was completely crushed and basically gave away points. I don't know where the French Daniel Wu got the confidence to say that he could defend O'Neal. O'Neal was like a battering ram, smashing the Lakers gate open and harvesting heads crazily. The energy of the other players of the Heat was all on the defensive end. Under strict defense, the Lakers offense was also blocked. In the first quarter, the team was 15 points behind the Heat with 18-33. O'Neal made 7 of 8 shots, 4 of 9 free throws, and scored 18 points in a single quarter, showing off his power at the Staples Center. Regarding what kind of results Yao Ming can achieve in the small ball era, it was a point of dispute among many fans in the past. Yao fans generally believed that Yao Ming would crush anyone in the small ball era and could force other teams in the league to prepare an inside blue collar insider to carry people, while Yayo haters believed that the scoring speed of 2 points will never be faster than 3 points. Yao Ming can't adapt to fast-paced offense and defense, can't defend pick and roll, and doesn't have enough physical strength to run back and forth. If he plays small ball in parallel, his achievements will be just like that. It is a pipe dream to blow up the small ball era. But no matter what the result of the dispute between Yao Ming and small bullies, there is one point that can be basically reached. O'Neal is an absolute small ball terminator. This game reflects this point. Kellyanne thought of many ways to deal with O'Neal, and finally found that the shark cutting tactics were the most effective. In Kellyanne's cognition, the shark cutting tactics that cannot guarantee offensive efficiency are not of much significance. But in this game, the Lakers could only use this trick to slow down O'Neal's offensive edge, and at the same time hope that the team's offense would be as efficient as possible. However, the outside offensive group led by Kobe failed to do this, and finally suffered a bitter defeat 87-114. The Lakers suffered the most painful defeat since Kellyanne took office, and it was also the worst loss of the season. 37-21. In the whole game, O'Neal made 16 of 23 shots, 11 of 25 free throws, and scored 43 points, dominating the Lakers inside line. Kobe's data was not bad. 9 of 21 shots, 5 of 12 3-pointers, 6 of 7 free throws, and scored 29 points. But everyone who watched the game knows that, because the team has been leading by more than 20 points, the Heat's defensive intensity in the second half was relatively average, allowing the Lakers to score some simple goals. A disastrous defeat. The fans did not blame Kellyanne. No one would deny the team's previous wonderful performance because of a loss after 6 consecutive wins. The most frustrated person was Kobe. After the press conference, he practiced for an extra hour in the gym as a warning to himself. After a day of rest, the Lakers faced their old rivals, the Celtics, at home and won the game 113-104, avoiding a losing streak. 38-21. The yellow-green battle is a brilliant and glorious period in NBA history. In the first round of the two teams' season matchup, the atmosphere at the Celtics' home court exerted great pressure on the Lakers. When they came to the Staples Center, the Lakers fans also exerted great pressure on the Celtics players. In this situation, several players with unstable psychological qualities in the Celtics team showed ups and downs in performance. Antoine Walker made 4 of 12 shots and LaFrentz made 1 of 6 shots, which was a sharp attack. What's more terrible is that the two of them joined forces to grab 8 rebounds, and they were beaten to pieces in the scramble for rebounds. In the last game, Anderson and Odom were beaten by O'Neal in the interior and outed their lives. In this game, they learned from their mistakes and pressed Walker and LaFrentz to kite men on the head. They grabbed 9 front court rebounds alone. Their heroic performance was not like the Lakers' interior. The team has an absolute advantage in rebounding. Kobe, Finley, and Butler have ample opportunities to reload, and their offense has become more courageous and resolute. The Celtics' outside offense is not weak. Pierce scored 32 points and 6 rebounds. Data brush Ricky Davis was not soft at all in this scene and scored 21 points. But the team still lost because of the inside loss. The Lakers had 6 players score in double digits, and Kobe handed in 27 points, 5 rebounds and 4 assists. Overall, it was considered to be quite satisfactory. The key is that the team won. Constrained by the team's performance, Kobe's hope of competing for MVP this season is very slim. The 2 honors he could compete for were the scoring champion and the first team of the All-NBA team, and his main opponent was Iverson. Kobe averaged 30.2 points per game, just a little behind Iverson, 30.3. On the MVP list, Nash and O'Neal ranked 1st and 2nd, Duncan ranked 3rd, and Kobe and Iverson ranked 4th and 5th. In the competition for the guard position of the All-NBA team, apart from Nash firmly occupying one spot, the other spot was between Kobe and Iverson. Both honors were within reach. Based on Kellyanne's understanding of Kobe, he must be I want it all, and it is very likely that he will increase his shots in the game, even if it means sacrificing some efficiency. In order to avoid some unhappy things from happening, Kellyanne took the initiative to call Kobe and told him a lot. The team would make some tactical adjustments for him, create singles opportunities for him and let him score points on the court when leading or falling behind by a large score. But if the touch is not good, he has to reduce jump shots and increase breakthroughs. When facing a double team, you should score when you need to and don't force your way into the double team. Learn to adjust, it won't be difficult for you. No one knows whether Kobe can accept Kellyan's advice. The key point is that Kellyan showed his goodwill to Kobe. He is also the first coach to tell Kobe openly that he will help him improve his statistics, which is quite special. Chapter 94, Big Gift Package? Big Salute. March 4th, the Lakers, who were playing at home, suffered a losing streak. The team lost to the Detroit Pistons, their opponent in the finals last season, 91-104. 38-22. As the top defensive team in the league, the Spurs have Duncan, the rim protector, and Bowen, the sticky outside player. The strategy they adopted when defending was to force the ball to the baseline on both sides on the wing and to pass the ball to Duncan in the middle. Therefore, Kobe and McGrady, who could shoot against Bowen near the free throw line and on both sides, as well as Ray Allen and even Reed, who were good at shooting, all played well against the Spurs. In the game between the Lakers and the Spurs, who were obviously superior in strength, relied on Duncan to open up and penetrate the Lakers' inside line and won a thrilling victory. The Pistons' defensive strategy focuses on pressure on the ball holder, pressure on the ballless player. The former is to block shooting, and the latter is to block passing. Prince, Hamilton, Billups, and Hunter, who is actually the best perimeter defender of the Pistons, kept pressing, and the two wall aces filled in the inside. This team is good at making mistakes from the opponent, and can easily suffocate the opponent's shooting rhythm. It can paralyze the opponent's offensive coordination. The Pistons' defensive strengths almost completely blocked the Lakers' advantages. In this game, the Pistons firmly clamped Kobe. Fortunately, after receiving a reminder from Kellyan yesterday, Kobe did not act stubbornly in this game. He increased the number of passes when the opportunity was not good. He made 9 of 20 shots and 6 of 7 free throws in the whole game, scoring only 25 points, 5 rebounds and 3 assists. Although the Lakers fell behind throughout the game, they fought with the Pistons until the end of the game, thanks to Anderson and Butler's excellent performance in grabbing front court rebounds and seizing the opportunity for the second attack. The game was lost, but the scene was not ugly. In the last 3 games, the Lakers lost 2 games, and their status has fluctuated. However, considering that the 2 games they lost were against the Heat and the Pistons, and that they even won against the Celtics, who are ranked in the top 5 in the East, is this result not that bad? The 2 losses to strong teams are also an opportunity for the team to cool down. The team performed well some time ago, and the Los Angeles media boasted about the Lakers. To be honest, there were a few games this season that were won with a bit of luck, but luck can't always be on the Lakers side. Luck won't always be on the Nets side, but at least this season, it should always be on the side of the Supersonics. The team's record is only 39 wins and 21 losses, but it ranks 3rd in the West, 4 wins behind the Mavericks, who are ranked 4th in the West. The reason is that the league's fucked up rules require the champions of the 3 divisions to rank in the top 3. However, Kellyan doesn't like the outside world's excessive disparagement of the Supersonics, and even conveys a kind of teams in the lower half want to play against the Supersonics. It is true that the Supersonics took advantage of the division and ranked ahead of the Mavericks, who had a better record than them. However, their current record of 39 wins and 21 losses is also a solid 4th place in the Western Conference, and it is not reasonable to regard it as a big gift package. Before the game, Kellyan also pointed out this point in the locker room. Whether it is from the record or the 2 encounters this season, we are behind our opponents. I don't want everyone to be disturbed by the outside voices, and I don't want you to hold the idea that falling to 6th is better. The strategy of a season is something that the management and coaching staff should consider. The players should only consider winning. The game on the court began. The Lakers starting lineup did not change much, and it was still the same starting lineup. The Supersonics starters: point guard Rudner, shooting guard Ray Allen, small forward Rashard Lewis, power forward Radmanovic and center Jerome James. In the first round of offense, Lewis hit a mid-range jumper against Butler's defense. 2:0. The team's outstanding performance this season has given Lewis considerable self-confidence. A shooter like him will be more resolute in shooting after he has confidence, and his touch will also improve. Karen has made some progress on the defensive end this season, but when facing such a tall and long-armed shooting player, his defensive effect will be greatly reduced. Monty Williams reminded, the Sonics' own one-on-one defensibility is also relatively average, and it can't solve our offensive strengths. On the court, the Lakers handed over several consecutive offensive rounds to Kobe. A one-step lateral jump shot, a misaligned pull-up shot after going around the screen, and a quick stop shot during a breakthrough. Kobe had a good touch after the opening, with simple and efficient consecutive hits, leading the Lakers to a 6:0 wave. The Sonics did not have a corresponding defensive configuration, and there was nothing they could do about Kobe's personal offense. In the Sonics positional battle, Lewis and Radmanovic opened up on the right. Ridner dribbled the ball across half court and passed it to Ray Allen, who ran to the left corner. Ray Allen faced Kobe in the middle and backed up the ball. Ridner ran back on the left, got rid of Atkins' defense with the help of Jerome James, and took a three-pointer on the left. There was no interference. Anderson was confused by Ridner on this shot, and he made a nearly open three-pointer, 5-6. The Lakers attacked. Kobe played a single-handed back-to-back single-handed against Ray Allen in the corner. Radmanovic came over to form a double team, and Kobe had a good start. He was overconfident and forced a shot, but it missed due to interference from two people. Jerome James jumped up and kicked the ball out. Ray Allen grabbed the backcourt rebound, turned around and dribbled to the front court, and stopped in front of the right three-point line to face Kobe and shoot a three-pointer, which hit the target. 8:6. The unparalleled arrow formation of the Supersonics is also unique in the league. They score very quickly with three-pointers. Sometimes when you are leading by 20 points and feel safe, they can click and hit your main lineup with a few three-pointers. When the Lakers are attacking, Odom comes to the corner to hand with Kobe, but when the ball is about to reach Kobe, he pulls it back, turns around and shakes off Radmanovic, and scores a layup. 8:8. Odom has used this trick many times, and it works every time. Kobe's offensive threat is too great, and his containment is too strong. Odom is also a thief, always able to catch him off guard. The Supersonics are attacking in a positional battle. The players are spread out. Ridner and Radmanovic play a pick and roll cooperation, take a step back to the middle, and pass it to Radmanovic, who is around the wing. The latter takes the ball without stopping, and passes it to the left corner. Ray Allen makes a 70-degree circle from the right and runs to the left corner to receive the ball, turns to face the basket, and takes the ball and shoots. Kobe was defending Ray Allen, but his pace was disrupted by Allen's off-ball running. It was already very difficult to defend him, and he didn't have time to jump. The three-pointer went in. 11-8. The Lakers attacked, and Kobe broke through the Sonics defense and attracted a double team, passing the ball to Butler, who was open. The latter missed the open three-pointer, and Jerome James protected the rebound. Killian is already a coach who pays more attention to outside shooting in the league, but there is still some gap compared to the Sonics created by McMillan. The wing duel between Kobe plus Butler vs Ray Allen plus Lewis showed that neither side could defend the other, and it all depended on who had the better ability to seize opportunities. After another 3 minutes, the Sonics led 16-13 at home. Lewis and Ridner each had a good three-pointer but missed, which also made Kellyanne realize that the team's defense could not keep up with the Sonics off-ball running. He called a timeout before the official timeout and rearranged the team's defense. Chapter 95. Remarks on the release. I had thought of a lot to say, but when I wrote the title, my mind went blank, and I didn't know what to say. It has been 1.5 months since the book was published. With 94 free chapters and 220,000 free words, it has finally reached the stage of being put on the shelves. It is not easy. Thank you all for your love. Compared with the previous book, Building a Dream Dynasty, the performance of Basketball Scientist is slightly better, still a flop. The reasons for this have been mentioned in the final remarks of the previous book. I will not repeat them again to upset everyone. But I still have to talk about my mental journey of writing a book and some of my thoughts on this book. Book friends who have read Building a Dream Dynasty know that the previous book only has one map from beginning to end. It is okay to build a team and accumulate lineups in the early stage. In the later stage, the protagonist only needs to make full use of his advantages to make trades. The strength gap between the Nets and other teams is almost cross-dimensional. Therefore, even if I artificially reduce intelligence and kill the plot, it is becoming increasingly difficult to close a strength gap between the Nets and other teams. Therefore, Kellyanne will change the map, this is certain. The plan is to have 4 maps, so the length will be relatively long, and it is likely to exceed 2 million words, so you can feel free to start. In the setting, Kellyanne is not a full-level account. The template I thought of for him is the football coach Guardiola, a master who put his football philosophy into practice and promoted the development and innovation of this project. In fact, the original setting, the Lakers record is not as good as it is now, and the protagonist and Kobe are more both enemies and friends. There must be some collisions between the two geniuses. Good knights and fierce horses also have to have a process of mutual surrender. But everyone doesn't like to see losing. So I also tried some chapters in the style of Slam Dunk without affecting the main plot, and analyzed some offensive actions in detail. The problem of the heroine is a point that everyone is not very satisfied with. Every time I write about it, the collection will stagnate. It seems that other novels about Jessica Alba, Taylor Swift, Emma Watson, Scarlett Johansson, Megan Fox or Liu Yifei, Linuna, everyone has a higher degree of recognition and acceptance of their appearance. I admire white female stars, but have no desire for them. My own problem. There are too many people who write about Liu Yifei, and there are not enough for me. Pure girls like Yuna are not in line with my aesthetic taste. Actually, I have considered Nagasawa Masami. In the end, I still prefer Cheyenne Jeje or Dr. Wang. Regarding the update of this book, after it is put on the shelves, I plan to update it twice a day with 6,000 words, and occasionally 3 times with 8,000 to 9,000 words. Under normal circumstances, I still don't like to break the chapters due to the word count. The update time is generally around 3 PM for the first update, 10 PM for the second update, and if there is a third update, it is basically at midnight. Finally, there is the issue of subscription. How much does it cost to subscribe? It's all a cliché, so I won't talk about it. Before the book is put on the shelves, the book is collected and recommended. After it is put on the shelves, the only way to measure the performance of a book is to subscribe. Once again, I beg the big guys who like this book to subscribe to this book, even if it's just to subscribe to the first chapter on the shelves. This is related to my food problem. So please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, thank you. Finally, I would like to thank Kidian.com, thank you to the editor, Latio, and thank you to all the cutest people who have read this book and cast their votes for recommendation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, 10,000 Arrows vs Borrowing Arrows from a Straw Boat. After the timeout, Kellyanne replaced Butler with Finley. This was not only a regular rotation player for the team, but also an adjustment made by Kellyanne in response to the situation on the court. Butler went off the court to rest and waited until the second quarter to be the main attack point to lead the rotation players. Finley's appearance was also more conducive to opening up space and allowing Kobe to launch a personal offense. The game continued. Atkins dribbled the ball across half court and Odom inserted into the inside line. As soon as he stood still, he half crouched and blocked Radmanovic, reaching out for the ball. Atkins immediately lobbed the ball into the inside line. Odom jumped to catch the ball, turned around and shot without stopping, and the ball hit the backboard and went into the basket. 16-15, White, tall, accurate three-pointer. Radmanovic was used as a space-type inside player in the Supersonics, but he was not a space-type inside player at all. His positioning awareness was average, and his rebounding ability was not up to standard. In fact, he was just a taller outside shooter. The Lakers changed their defensive matchup. Finley was responsible for Radmanovic, and Odom was to defend Lewis. After Ridner made a pick and roll, Lewis responded with a 45-degree turnaround jump shot on the left side, scoring 2 points under defense 18-15. Kobe played one-on-one again, but he missed the mid-range shot by turning around against Ray Allen. Jerome James grabbed the rebound and looked for his teammates, and Odom stole the ball and hit the opponent. Kobe was a little excited. Kellyanne shouted loudly on the sidelines, reminding Kobe to pass the ball more and not to rush the offense. Fortunately, Kobe adjusted quickly and turned around to block Ray Allen on the defensive end. He dug a hole and made up for it himself. It was the Lakers' turn to attack. Atkins took the ball to the front court. Ridner was in position to defend. Odom was nailed in the paint, and Jerome James and Radmanovic fanned him from behind. Kobe ran to Atkins to receive the ball and immediately felt that Ray Allen had caught up with him. He accelerated and dribbled in the opposite direction, then dribbled in a large arc, flashed past Ray Allen, and rushed straight to the inside. Seeing this, Jerome James immediately took a step forward to prepare for defense. Facing Jerome James' accurate blocking defense, Kobe slowed down his body in time, suddenly held the ball to the left with his right hand, changed direction and dribbled in front of Odom and Radmanovic, jumped up to meet Radmanovic, and passed the ball to Odom next to him. The latter received the ball, jumped up and held the basketball high, and easily put the ball into the basket 18-17. The Supersonics attacked again. Ray Allen dribbled the ball to the right 45-degree three-point arc, suddenly accelerated and rushed diagonally, and immediately shouldered with Kobe. After taking a step, he dribbled the ball again, landed on one foot and immediately jumped one step to the inside. As soon as his body landed, he raised the ball and prepared to shoot. Kobe was tricked into jumping up, and when he jumped up, he realized that he was tricked. Before his feet landed on the ground, Ray Allen jumped up this time and easily hit the backboard into the basket. In the second half of the first quarter, the scores of the two teams remained deadlocked. McMillan and Kellyanne, two young coaches who have become famous this season, fought with some courage, but neither of them had the upper hand. The Supersonics ended the game with a 1-point lead of 28-27. In the second quarter, the rotation lineups of both sides appeared on the court. The Lakers once again used a small lineup, with House, Finley, Butler, Barnes, and Diop appearing together. At the beginning of the game, Daniels broke through the inside line and successfully scored a layup. This two-way guard is good at shooting, but because of his excellent shooting ability, he passed House with a fake move and broke through. The Lakers substitute inside player Diop's ability to make up for the defense's average, and he was beaten by Daniels. Daniels played the role of Ray Allen in the substitute lineup of the Supersonics. On the Lakers side, Butler turned to the main attack point to suppress the opponent's wing. Butler broke through Robert Murray at the baseline, pushed his opponent away, and made a mid-range shot. 30-29. The Supersonics players complained to the referee that Butler was suspected of hitting someone, but the referee did not say anything. This Supersonics team was not optimistic before the season. In addition to the poor and weak record for many years, another part of the reason was that the players' physical confrontation was very average. In terms of various positions, perhaps only Lewis and Wilcox on the bench have excellent physical talents. The former is also good in body shape, coordination, and confrontation is also relatively soft. House, Barnes, and Finley cleared the Supersonics' interior defense. Butler continued to attack and chase, making the Supersonics very uncomfortable. In the next round of offense and defense, Butler rushed into the Supersonics interior again, forced a layup against Nick Collison's defense, and caused Collison to foul. On the sidelines, Kellyanne also cheered for his favorite player's beautiful score. Finley's joining reduced Butler's playing time, but also made his responsibilities clearer. After the opening, he played the role of Pippen, doing a good job of defense and weak side defense, and led the bench to attack at the beginning of the second quarter. For Butler, who is brave but not wise, this usage makes his performance more efficient. Butler made the free throw. 30-32. The Supersonics attacked. Daniels was stuck by the Lakers' switch defense, and Finley entangled him after the switch defense. Daniels played pick and roll with Collison, and Finley and Barnes double-teamed Daniels, not giving the latter an easy shot. Daniels was too slow to pass the ball, Nixon's shot was too long, Barnes barely shot after returning to his position, but missed, and Finley, who was retracted, took the opportunity to protect the rebound. In the first half of the second quarter, the Sonics' offense had not improved. The Lakers' advantage of small in-oop mobility allowed them to spare more energy on the defensive end, to strangle the Sonics' outside scoring points. The two inside players of the Sonics, Evans and Nixon, were not offensive threats. The former was known as a rebound maniac who could only grab rebounds, and the latter barely had a mid-range shot, but his shooting speed was too slow. Barnes, who was filling in the outside position, returned to defense, and the ball was still in his hand. After a 13:6 attack wave, the Lakers widened the gap to 9 points. McMillan finally made personnel adjustments and replaced the main players. The Sonics' 10,000 arrows scoring speed was terrifying. Killian did not dare to neglect it and also replaced the main players. Before going on the court, he repeatedly reminded Kobe, "Stay stable, don't waste time." In fact, the Lakers did not have the capital to waste time. Back on the court, the first round of offense, the Supersonics dismantled the Lakers' defense through continuous off-ball pick and rolls. Lewis shook off Odom's defense, received the ball in one step at the free throw line, and made a long two-point shot. 38:45. Anderson quickly sent a pass from the baseline. Kobe received the ball and quickly advanced, catching the Supersonics off guard. Ray Allen could not stop Kobe in single defense, and watched Kobe lay up and score. Imperceptibly, the Lakers players have developed the habit of attacking when the opponent is unprepared. Compared with the Lakers' various ways of scoring, the Supersonics seem to be a bit rigid. The proportion of mid-range and long-range shots in this team's offense is too high, which is very dependent on the player's touch. When the touch is explosive, you can shoot all the arrows at once, but when the touch is not good, you can only be borrowed arrows by the straw boat by the opponent. The most terrible thing is that the Lakers are a team that is very good at offense and defense conversion. As long as you miss the shot, the Lakers dare to launch a quick counter-attack. Occasionally, we are too impatient and make mistakes. The important thing is that the physical fitness of the Supersonics players is not as good as that of the Lakers, and the disadvantage of running is magnified. The greater the threat of the Lakers counter-attack, the more unstable the mentality of the Supersonics players on the offensive end. As for shooters, once their mentality fluctuates, the basket is like a lid, and they can't shoot in any way. Whether it is an outside shot or Lewis's attack on the inside, the Supersonics missed 5 consecutive attacks. The Lakers fought back continuously. Kobe and Butler scored consecutively in the counter-attack. The Lakers opened the gap to 17 points in one go, which hit the Supersonics hard. When the team fell behind by a large score, the mentality of the Supersonics players tended to be stable, and they were able to seize some opportunities that were not opportunities. At this time, Killian once again used the small in-oop of House, Finley, Kobe, Barnes, and Odom to expand the defensive area on the outside, and flexibly run on the offensive end to attack the Supersonics, and forcibly pushed back the Supersonics counter-attack. Ray Allen made a quick stop jump shot. Kobe then broke into the paint and scored a point, causing a foul and a penalty. Kobe and Butler's fierce attack, like a relay, made the Sonics miserable. At the end of the half, the Sonics were 17 points behind 46:63. In the first half, Kobe had already taken 19 shots, hitting 12 of them, and scoring 29 points. In the advantageous situation, Killian did not prevent Kobe from continuing to take some shots in the second half, but the premise was that he could not do anything reckless. The 17-point difference was a natural chasm that was difficult for some opponents to turn the tables, but this certainly did not include the Sonics. They were still very scary when they had a convulsion and their hands were bursting. However, after finding out the Sonics in this game, Killian also had a new understanding of this opponent. He felt that the opponent was not that scary from the bottom of his heart, at least for the Lakers. It was not as strong as it looked. Just like every defensive advantage of the Pistons could just limit the Lakers' offensive strengths, they were the Lakers' natural enemy. This Supersonics team also felt that their hands and feet were tied up when facing the Lakers. The Supersonics offense mainly relies on large-scale interlaced running and frequent off-ball pick and rolls. If the situation cannot be opened up, Ray Allen and Lewis will be forced to play one-on-one. On the Lakers side, the forward and guard line composed of Kobe, Butler, Odom, and Anderson is among the best in the league in terms of mobility. When the team needs to change to a small lineup, Barnes' mobility at the third position will increase when he plays at the fourth position, and it is no problem to clamp down on the Supersonics offense. Once Ray Allen and Lewis are forced to choose to play one-on-one, Ray Allen will not be able to take advantage of Kobe one-on-one, and Lewis is not an absolute offensive strong point against Butler and Odom. According to Kellyan's calculations, if the two teams can meet in the playoffs, the Lakers' chances of winning are more than 70%. Chapter 97 vs 8 King Showdown. On the court, the Lakers continue to expand their lead. Kobe, who had already scored 29 points in the first half, did not show any mercy in the second half, moving towards his first 50+ of the season, while also working hard to send himself to the throne of the scoring champion. Kobe put most of his energy on the offensive end, and it was inevitable that he relaxed on the defensive end, allowing Ray Allen to find a chance to shoot. Gentleman Ray made consecutive three-pointers and layups to keep the team alive, but that was just to prevent the game from entering garbage time. That's all. The Lakers maintained a 15+ lead from beginning to end. McMillan also tried to dilute the Lakers' advantage by reducing the number of rounds, quickly returning to defense, reducing the fight for front court rebounds, and stabilizing defense, but they were all resolved by Kellyan one by one. It can only be said that Lakers fans are happy. Just looking at Kellyan's performance after taking over the Lakers, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is the top 10 or even top 5 head coach in the league. This young coach battle ended with Kellyan's great victory 112-126. The Lakers defeated the Supersonics by 14 points away from home, once again avoiding a losing streak. 39-22. In the whole game, Kobe made 19 of 36 shots, 5 of 11 from beyond the 3-point line, 9 of 11 free throws, and scored a season-high 52 points, taking into account both efficiency and output. And approaching Iverson in the battle for the scoring champion. In the post-match interview, Kobe was very excited with perfect statistics, and praised Kellyan. By the way, I enjoy working with Kimmy, and I feel that I can integrate into his system more and more. When this statement came out, the entire NBA circle was a little shocked. Kobe, who has always been a loner, has not had many coaches in his career, but he has also experienced famous coaches such as Phil Jackson and Tom Janovic. He has never expressed such an attitude to any head coach. Kellyan, what is his virtue? After giving the players a day off, Kellyan planned to stay in the office, to rest and go directly to Wanglafen in the afternoon. At the reception desk of the office, there were two Chinese people sitting there tasting the Lakers coffee. "You two are looking for me?" Kellyan asked proactively. A man in his 30s stood up and introduced himself. "Hello, Kellyan, I'm Guo Rubin, the advertising manager of Nestlé China, and this is my assistant Zhu Runcheng." "Hello." Kellyan took the initiative to shake hands with the two people. "Are you looking for me to do advertising?" Before the other party introduced the purpose of their visit, Kellyan had already asked first. Nestlé came to him. "It can't be to promote coffee, right?" Guo Rubin smiled and nodded. "It's indeed about advertising. Since you have guessed it, why don't we get to the point? Let's talk in my office," Kellyan said. Guo Rubin is a very insightful advertising planner, and Kellyan's sudden appearance in the United States made him very interested. His keen sense of smell told him that Kellyan is a very valuable publicity target. In fact, many Chinese manufacturers have noticed Kellyan and know that he is now very popular. But everyone is worried about Kellyan's future. As long as Yao Ming stays in the NBA, his exposure rate will not be low. Even when he becomes successful and famous, even if he retires, people will still see his highlights and miss the days when the Chinese giants dominated the NBA. But it's different for the head coach. If Kellyan doesn't have the halo of NBA head coach, he will retreat to the position of assistant coach or return to China to coach the CBA team. His unique topicality will be gone. How to make Kellyan's highlights. Guo Rubin's strength lies in his ability to go against the crowd and come directly to the United States to discuss cooperation with Kellyan. We would like to invite you to shoot an advertisement for Nestle. It will take about a day for you to take part in a promotional activity or platform activity after the season ends. In addition, you cannot drink our company's competing products in public, and your cup must be marked with the Nestle logo. After that, GUO Ruben handed the contract he prepared to Kellyanne. It is a 3-month contract for the time being. You will be able to receive a remuneration of $200,000. If the publicity effect is good, Nestle can extend the use for 3 months, and you can get another $100,000 at that time. $300,000? Kellyanne frowned. It was only more than 2 million RMB, which was far from what he imagined. Yao Ming's contract with Reebok was 6 years and $50 million. Both are Chinese, shouldering the Chinese market. The gap is too big. This price is not low. You may be comparing yourself with Yao Ming, but I want to say that Yao Ming and Liu Xiang are different in China. 1 advertisement, 3 months of endorsement. This unit price exceeds any other sports star in China, including Guo Jingjing and Kang Linghu. Guo Ruben said seriously, "I'm sorry, maybe I think too highly of myself, but I don't intend to accept this offer." Kellyanne's idea was different from Guo Ruben's. There is a kind of psychology called brand effect, and Kellyanne's maintenance of his commercial value is the same. If he swallows his anger and accepts this $200,000 offer today, then other advertisers who talk to him about cooperation in the future will benchmark this $200,000 price. It means that Kellyanne himself has lowered his brand value, which he absolutely cannot tolerate. Rejecting an advertiser and turning away $200,000, it would be a lie to say that he didn't feel pain. Kellyanne then called Wang Lifan and wanted her to try to find out from Hebe about the market situation of their group accepting advertising endorsements. Wow, this is a very private matter, very offensive. Wang Lifan said solemnly, "If she doesn't want to talk, don't force her." Kellyanne also knew that as a friend, he shouldn't ask about these income matters, but he himself didn't have an agent, and he really needed a reference when discussing cooperation with advertisers. Guo Ruben was right in at least one thing. Kellyanne couldn't compare himself to Yao Ming. Among other public figures, he only knew Hebe. After a day of rest, the Lakers continued to fly in the air, flying to Cleveland to challenge the Cavaliers led by the little Emperor James. The biggest loss of Carter's joining the Nets is of course the Raptors, and the second most affected team is likely to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Nets, who originally went for the number 1 pick, instantly recovered after getting Carter and rushed to the 9th place in the Eastern Conference after a fierce slashing and killing. They are only 1 win away from the 8th placed Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference. It seems that they are about to stage a victory escape. The Cavaliers are under great pressure and can't afford to lose a single game. With the best wing group in the league and Anderson as a qualified defensive inside player, the Lakers have some advantages over the Cavaliers, but victory or defeat is not determined by strength comparison alone, it is always determined by fighting. The Cavaliers in a crisis are always more motivated than the Lakers. The Cavaliers, playing at home, have the advantage of the terrain and the people, and the outcome is uncertain. Because of Kellyanne, the Lakers took away part of the Rockets' broadcast share. As there was no Rockets game today, CCTV chose to broadcast the Lakers game. This was also the first time that Kobe vs. James appeared on CCTV. Yoga said enthusiastically, "Good morning, dear audience friends. Today we are broadcasting the American NBA professional basketball game. The Los Angeles Lakers away challenge the Cleveland Cavaliers." Zhang Heli said on the side, "This is also a conversation between 2 superstars in the league, Kobe and James. We all know that Kobe was once called the successor to Jordan, and the media and fans think he is the most like Jordan. James, the number 1 pick in 2003, is also favored by the league. He has a unique talent and extremely exaggerated physical fitness. While ensuring scoring, he can also drive his teammates. He can deliver 6.7 assists per game, and his overall view is more like Jordan." Coach Zhang, "Can we say that the 2 of them have inherited a part of Jordan, and together they are like Jordan?" Yoga put forward a novel argument. It can also be said that Kobe's skills plus James's body are very close to Jordan, and can even surpass Jordan. The 2 were talking nonsense seriously until the director cut the camera to the court. Anderson and Big Z had already come to the midline and were ready for a jump ball. The flying basketball was first touched by the taller Big Z. He was delighted, but Anderson's hand was like a venomous snake, forcibly flicking the ball back from his fingertips. Butler saw it clearly and jumped up to grab the basketball first. "Return to defense," James shouted, turned around and ran back. The Cavaliers knew the threat of the Lakers' offense and defense transition very quickly, and Butler could not launch the first wave of reunion at all. He had to slow down and then flicked his hand and passed the ball to Atkins, who walked in front of him. Atkins ran forward quickly with the ball, came to the Cavaliers' half, faced with McGinnis's defense, turned around and changed direction, and cut in diagonally. McGinnis didn't expect that Atkins was the first to break through boldly, but was passed by Atkins in a trance. Atkins broke into the basket, but was blocked by Gooden's forward angle. James quickly moved and blocked the route of Atkins' retreat. Atkins glanced and passed the ball to Butler, who had already received it on the left. As soon as Butler received the ball, James came over. James's speed and defense awareness was simply terrifying. Butler turned his back to James to protect the ball and swept the court. Seeing Kobe jogging to the right, he shook his hand and passed the ball quickly. Snap. Snow appeared on the passing line like a ghost and intercepted Butler's pass. Almost immediately, James started. The sprinting James was like a motorboat moving at full speed. People had no idea of competing with him in speed. The whole audience was watching James' performance, and he lived up to expectations and came up with a new trick. 3-step reverse pull-up dunk inside the 3-point line. Carter's dunking ability has declined due to injuries. I'm afraid there are only a handful of people in the league who can complete this dunk. Wow. The whole audience burst into cheers for the first time. No one expected that the little emperor they respected would show his terrible fangs to his opponent at the beginning of the game. The Lakers were not affected by their opponents. Even Kobe did not think of fighting back. They quickly set up their formation and started to pass the ball frequently. For a while, the scene became a fierce positional battle. Butler ran to the right baseline and chased after him with gritted teeth. Anderson did a pick and roll without the ball, and Snow turned around to avoid it. This delay allowed Butler to get the ball. The road in front of Butler was open, and Big Z chose to step forward to defend. When Big Z was pulled out, Butler threw the ball high in his hand. James, who subconsciously covered the position under the basket, felt bad. As soon as the thought flashed through his mind, a huge force rushed into his body, making him completely unable to control his body, and rushed out. James hit the basket heavily, and his body stopped, but he felt numb on his back. Anderson fell from the basket arrogantly and looked at James fiercely. Beep. The referee made an offensive foul gesture, indicating that Anderson was committing a pushing foul. What? I bumped into him because I jumped. Anderson looked at James again, who was still lying on the ground. You hit him with your knee, which is a dangerous move. The referee insisted on his decision. My knee was straight when I jumped, and I didn't bend it to bump into him. Anderson kept talking to the referee in anger, and then he got another technical foul. This time, Kobe and Butler came forward and forcibly dragged him away. The big screen at the Cavaliers' home court replayed Anderson's dangerous move just now. Well, it seems that Anderson's move should not constitute an offensive foul. It can only be said that James may have fallen, and the referee gave a sympathetic whistle. McGinnis executed the technical foul free throw and made the ball possession. The Cavaliers still had the ball, and James returned to the court after the team doctor's examination. The fans at the scene also welcomed the return of the Little Emperor with applause. As soon as he came on the court, James led the team's offense. Under the cover of two teammates, he suddenly accelerated, and his speed made Butler get away again. Odom made up for the position in time and blocked James, but failed to block the basketball. Odom's defense missed Gooden, who easily scored a layup. Although James' shooting is unstable, he is indeed mature in personal offense and assisting teammates, which is not in line with his age. The rhythm of passing is too good. What amazed Kellyanne even more was James's physical fitness. The collision just now seemed to have no big impact on him. Pull apart. Try to pull apart as much as possible. Kellyanne ordered the players on the sidelines. After his shouting, the Lakers launched an attack in an orderly manner. Guide the ball, intersperse, behind the Lakers' high-speed passing and receiving. There is a dispatch of the Cavaliers' defensive formation. Odom pulled out Gooden, and the Cavaliers had only Big Z in the restricted area. Kobe used his off-ball running to get rid of James, dodged, rushed into the restricted area to receive the ball, faced Big Z's backup defense, forced 3 steps, followed the steps and stepped sideways, avoiding Big Z's defense, and made a strange sideways running shot to barely throw the ball, which hit the basket, and went into the basket. Finally, some response was made. There will be a third update at night. Chapter 98 Double Standard Dog. James played very hard, but as time went on, the Lakers regained the initiative in the game, and the team's lineup advantage was very obvious. For James, coming to the Cavaliers was not a lucky thing. The extremely lack of attractiveness of the city of Cleveland made it difficult for them to recruit free agents. Even if they wanted to grab people at a premium, they had to rank behind other options. For the Cavaliers, it was a mixed blessing that James almost did not need a growth period to become a first-line star in the league. The good news was that the Cavaliers welcomed the best player in history, but the worry was that the team had achieved results too early, and they could not even continue to accumulate talents, and then they had to move towards higher goals. James attacked again, using the pick and roll of Big Z. He quickly bypassed Butler and directly challenged Anderson. Maybe it was because of the inexplicable foul last time. This time Anderson gave James a hard blow, directly pushing James' body in the air and knocking him to the ground. James was knocked to the ground by Anderson for the second time. The Cavaliers players were not happy with this. They loudly rebuked Anderson's behavior and pushed and shoved him, putting pressure on the referee. Seeing this, Kobe immediately pulled Anderson away to make sure he didn't clash with his opponent. He already had a technical foul, so if there was any minor conflict, the referee couldn't let him off, even if he wanted to. Facts have proved that Kobe's operation is very experienced. The referee was a little too heavy in sentencing Anderson for the last technical foul. He would be very careful when sending him off for the second technical foul. After checking the video, Anderson's foul itself was between an ordinary foul and a malicious foul, both of which were acceptable. In the end, the referee showed mercy and only called an ordinary foul. But at the same time, the referee also took the initiative to negotiate with Kenyan. You must control the actions of your players. If there are any dangerous actions, you will be sent off directly. James made a free throw, and Kenyan replaced Anderson with Diop, which not only allowed him to calm down, but also served as a protection for him. Seizing the free throw opportunity, James helped the Cavaliers chase the score to 12-13. The Lakers attacked. Kobe received the ball in the low post and was about to force a foul on Snow, but the referee blew the whistle and the Lakers screamed for a foul. Diop, who had just come on the court, was confused, feeling that he had done nothing, but was called for a foul. Kenyan himself didn't understand this call. Was it to find a balance for not sending Anderson off just now? The Cavaliers served the ball. James took the ball in the middle and faced Kobe, took a step, and passed the ball to the basket. The Lakers' former player Devin George made a layup and scored, 14-13. From the bright and bustling Los Angeles to the deserted Cleveland, life was a bit unfair to Devin George. But this is part of the NBA. Let alone him. Kenyan himself didn't know where he would be next season. Odom made a counter run with Kobe from the side. Devin George interfered, and Kobe pulled out and shot, but it bounced out of the basket. This ball was well coordinated, but it didn't go in. In the Cavaliers' positional battle, Gooden screened for Devin George again to help him get rid of Butler. Butler caught up this time. Devin George circled around the inside line, ran back from the left side, and looked for Big Z to screen again. Butler didn't keep up with the rhythm this time. James took another step forward, half crouched with both feet, and flicked his wrist lightly, passing the ball horizontally from Odom's armpit. It was passed to George, who received the ball, stood up, picked up the ball with one hand, and hit the backboard. 16-13. It is always a happy thing to be able to score consecutively against the old club. At this time, Kenyan couldn't help it and decisively called a timeout, turned on the hairdryer mode, and scolded his players. Diop's top defense against the inside killer is better than Anderson, but the other aspects are a bit worse. After Anderson left the court, the team's inside defense dropped by more than 2 levels. This is also the reason why the Cavaliers kept getting the ball to the basket and scored. This is a problem of ability and there is no solution. Killian replaced Butler and Atkins with Barnes and House, changing the team's regular rotation order, hoping that Barnes could do a better job of assisting defense in the interior. After all, he plays a role of the 4th position in the small lineup and is better at assisting defense than Butler. The Lakers attacked. Kobe broke through and was double teamed and passed the ball to House. House resolutely shot and missed. He immediately complained to the referee that the opponent was suspected of being a thug, but was ignored by the referee. James, like a perpetual motion machine, once again used the pick and roll to attack the basket, causing Odom to foul. Killian was a little speechless. The referee's problem in whistling was a bit double standard. Many confrontations that the Cavaliers allowed on the Lakers offense were resolutely called fouls when the Cavaliers attacked. This inevitably made the Lakers players a little restrained when attacking. When James was shooting free throws, Killian was negotiating with the assistant referee on the sidelines. Please pay attention to your standards for whistling. I think the existing standards for whistling are not uniform. But I don't think so. The assistant referee was very stubborn. Unless you think touching LeBron's body hair is also a foul. Killian mocked the referee and turned away before he could react. All his money has been invested in YouTube. If he is fined again, if the team does not help to pay for it, he will probably become the first head coach to go bankrupt because of the fine. The battle-hardened Kobe also noticed the problem. The referee's bias meant that the Lakers had to do everything they could to get the ball into the basket when they broke into the penalty area and no one would call. At the same time, they had to pay attention to defensive actions on the defensive end. The best way was to throw the ball in. After all, the shady scenes in Slam Dunk were just movies. The NBA understand still had a bottom line. Atkins passed the ball to Kobe, and all the Lakers players pulled away. Kobe dribbled the ball to the left, and Big Zed quickly switched defense to follow. Odom pulled outside the 3-point line, and Gooden hesitated and followed him out to defend. There are too many opponents who have been killed by the Lakers this season. Kobe paused slightly when facing the basket with the ball, dribbled the ball between his legs, and changed direction to the baseline with his left hand. Big Zed was too slow, and was passed by 1 step. He could only chase and block the shot, based on his experience. But how can he block from behind? He jumped up in 1 step, and dunked the ball with his right hand. On the way back to defense, Kobe loudly encouraged his teammates, and boosted their morale. The Cavaliers attacked. James broke through the middle, and Barnes kept a distance of 1 step, obviously letting James shoot. James pressed to the free throw line, and Barnes still used this defensive strategy, and watched James miss. The Lakers attacked. Diop gave Kobe an off-ball screen on the left, and the Cavaliers decisively chose to chase and defend. James also retreated. After the switch, it became Devin George defending Diop. He received the pass and turned to attack the basket. Devin George is also an old man who has won the championship, and he decisively cut the shark. Killian usually uses the shark cutting and the hoe cutting to limit his opponents, and now it will be his turn. Chapter 99. One Man's Empire. Diop missed 2 free throws. Killian touched his forehead helplessly on the sidelines. He finally understood the mood of Stan Van Gundy, Popovich and Rivers. O'Neal, Bowen and Howard, who were beaten to death by the Lakers, were all shouting to the sky at this time, "You have come to this day." Head coaches like Killian are good at using foul tactics to disgust opponents, but on the other hand, once the opponent uses this trick, the backlash will be more serious. You have spent a lot of effort to design offensive tactics, but in the end, the opponent chases your players with poor free throws and fouls, making all your arrangements go to waste. It would be strange if he didn't vomit 3 liters of blood. The Cavaliers attacked. James received the ball, and Barnes immediately flashed out. Although it was not a tight defense, the distance was not very far. James began to dribble and look for a chance to break through. Although Barnes is not as good as Butler in physical confrontation, he is tough, and his hands are dirty. He dares to make moves, which has a certain deterrent effect on James' breakthrough. Big Zed came forward for a pick and roll, and James calmly broke through from the right side and bravely penetrated the Lakers' hinterland. Odom let go of Gooden behind him and came over directly, and behind him, Diop also stood in position, ready to make up for the defense. James jumped directly and flew towards the basket. Flying in the air and resisting the double team of Odom and Diop, James lowered his hands and sent the ball from his waist. His pass was accurately passed to Gooden's hands, and the latter followed up with a layup. Just as he was about to put the ball into the basket, suddenly a black hand appeared from behind, and the fingers pressed firmly on the basketball. Snap. Gooden looked back. It was Kobe. James is more accustomed to passing the ball to the teammate with the best position, and the Lakers have already had a plan for this. In a flash, Kobe made a decision and blocked Gooden's attack. Odom grabbed the rebound and sent a long pass to Barnes, who was blocked by Big Z outside the 3-point line. He ran in front. This was a rare opportunity for Barnes to complete a dunk in the fast break stage in his career. He was even a little nervous. After breaking into the basket, he changed his mind and chose to play it safe, ending this attack with a rebound. 18-17. After landing, Barnes clapped his hands in dissatisfaction, thinking that his offensive choice was terrible. The camera also recorded this scene, and the fans all smiled knowingly. Entering the official timeout, Kellyan also hugged Barnes' neck and said a lot of encouraging words. After returning from the timeout, the Cavaliers quickly returned a goal to the Lakers. James once again used the breakthrough to tear open the Lakers defense and pass the ball to Pavlovic outside the 3-point line. The latter made a steady 3-point shot, but unfortunately one of his feet slightly stepped on the line when he jumped, and the referee only awarded a 2-point shot, which made the audience a little dissatisfied, and they booed the referee again to put pressure on him. 2017. The referee's whistle gradually returned to normal, and the Lakers also began to exert their strength. Kobe rarely asked his teammates for a pick and roll on the offensive end. After breaking through, he passed the ball to the bottom corner. Barnes hit a 3-pointer from the bottom corner steadily. When the replay was played, he jumped up excitedly. 2020. Looking back, Barnes made a great contribution on the defensive end. Barnes, who was separated from James by the pick and roll, stretched out his hand and just touched the basketball in James' hand, affecting James' dribbling rhythm. Odom successfully stole the ball and pushed the fast break counter-attack without saying a word. He went straight to the basket and caused McGinnis to foul. Recently, Odom's outstanding performance has even exceeded Kellyan's expectations. Compared with Weber, who he once promoted the trade, except for the ability to assist and initiate offense in the interior, he is better in other aspects, which also surprised Kellyan himself. If the referee is not biased, the Lakers are still much stronger than the Cavaliers. Even if the Little Emperor played the whole first quarter, he was unable to stop the Lakers' winning momentum. At 28:33, the Cavaliers trailed by 5 points at home and ended the first quarter. At the moment of life and death for the team, they could not afford to lose a single game. James was full of fighting spirit and did not intend to rest. He started the second quarter and led the team to counter-attack. The Lakers used a small lineup of Atkins, Finley, Butler, Barnes and Anderson to fight. Sometimes, the decision made by the players is not necessarily correct. The significance of the head coach is to correct some mistakes made by the players. A typical example is Kellyan's restriction on Kobe's playing style, allowing him to take more shots, but not allowing him to miss a few shots. Mike Brown allowed James to continue playing, which was in line with James' wishes, but he did not consider the burden on James and whether his physical strength could support this usage. All the Cavaliers' attacks depended on James to initiate, and the holes torn open on the defensive end needed to be filled by James. In addition, the Lakers' 3 wing players and a highly mobile inside player were strangled with all their strength. The Lakers put pressure on James from all levels. Even with the referee's blessing, the Little Emperor couldn't bear it. James' team couldn't even beat the Lakers' rotation lineup, and even the score was pulled apart. This scene was a little unbelievable for the fans at the scene, but it really happened. When Mike Brown finally realized that something was wrong and chose to replace James, the score had reached 34:46, and the Lakers led by 12 points. What's more terrifying is that Shinji's horse racing The Cavaliers' Shanxi just couldn't run faster than the Lakers' Zhangxi, and then it was the Cavaliers' Zhangxi who faced the Lakers' Shanxi, and Kobe and Odom, who had been resting on the bench, returned to the court. Without James, the Cavaliers couldn't even find a singles player on the court. McGinnis, Gooden and Big Z may be the players of the Cavaliers who can attack independently besides James. With this lineup, even if you ask Kayan to lead, he will be completely blind. Not to mention Mike Brown, who is known for only leading James. The game continued. As soon as Kobe came on the court, he used his footwork to eat Pavlovic alive and hit a mid-range shot. Then he broke through and passed the ball in the offense, assisting Finley to hit a three-pointer. The Lakers' offense was as smooth as mercury. On the other hand, the Cavaliers' offense had no way to get the ball into the penalty area, and the referee couldn't find a chance to help. James rested for 3 minutes, and the score was 39-59. The Cavaliers were 20 points behind. When he returned to the court, James was so angry that he wanted to curse. I guess the referee is going to start to use force again. After the timeout ended, and the players returned to the court, Kayan said to Hamblin beside him, "It's hard to win the Cavaliers away game without the strength to beat the Cavaliers by more than 15 points. Hamblin joked, "It's about the same." Kayan also laughed. The trend of the game was just as Kayan had guessed. James' appearance plus the Cavaliers' big deficit equals a lot of free throws. James's desperate rush again and again made Kayan appreciate him a little more. At least his free throws were earned with his life, which was much better than the future James who relied on studying the league rules and thinking of ways to cheat fouls. Of course, Kayan could still look at James with appreciation. Another reason was that the Cavaliers who got free throws did not threaten the Lakers. The Lakers were not afraid of the referee giving the Cavaliers free throws, but they were afraid that their offense would be blocked. The Lakers maintained their offensive efficiency and did not lose many points to the Cavaliers 52-69, a difference of 17 points. This is also the strength gap between the Eastern Conference playoff marginal teams and the Western Conference top 4 teams. In the second half, Kayan replaced the lineup with a big man. Odom played as a guest point guard. Butler, Finley, opened up space and created space for Kobe's personal offense. This change of tactics made it difficult for the Cavaliers to cope. Apart from James, the Cavaliers had no corresponding forward resources to fight against the Lakers wingers. The two inside players, Big Z and Gooden, had only average defensive capabilities and could not help James defend Kobe. At the same time, other positions were also at a disadvantage. On the defensive end, the Lakers had an obvious height advantage. James broke into the basket and raised his arms everywhere, interfering with his vision. The Cavaliers had no other small players who could take advantage of the lack of mobility of the Lakers' big lineup, and the offensive end was difficult. The Lakers made a wave of efforts and widened the score difference to more than 25 points, basically ending the suspense of the game. 40-22, the final score was fixed at 113-134. The Cavaliers lost at home, and their record was caught up by the New Jersey Nets. They only relied on their record advantage against opponents in the same division to lead the Nets, and ranked 8th in the Eastern Conference. If something goes wrong in the next season, they are likely to lose their playoff spot. James, who tried his best, received applause from the fans. However, James, who lost the game, was obviously in no mood to interact with the fans, and returned to the locker room with a sullen face. Another person who received cheers from the fans was Kayan. When Kayan returned to the locker room, a fan on the side of the passage took out a sign that had been made in advance. "We need you, Kimmy. You will come to Cleveland to coach, right?" Kayan is still the acting head coach of the Lakers. This topic has been discovered and hyped by many media. Every time the Lakers win beautifully, there will be fans who are dissatisfied with their own coach on the forum. Kayan will coach the team next season and bring beautiful offense to the team. But it is the first time that the Cleveland fans have done it so directly and completely disrespected the head coach. At the press conference, the reporter interviewed Kayan and talked about this matter and pointed out that Kayan seemed to be laughing at the time. "I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense." Kayan denied 3 times in a row. The reality is that the Cavaliers have a very good head coach who is doing a good job in Cleveland. and I'm the acting head coach of the Lakers. I don't want to make any predictions about the future. I haven't even decided what to eat tomorrow. Killian is not Phil Jackson. He won't say anything specious to make other head coaches uneasy, but his response this time already has the meaning of putting pressure on the Lakers management. The media, fans and even the management circles of some other teams are already paying attention to their future. Jerry Buss and Kupchak should also make some reactions. Chapter 100 Data Brush. After a day of rest, the Lakers continued their road trip to Milwaukee, harvesting the Bucks' antlers and successfully defeating their opponents 109-94, extending their winning streak to 3 games. 41-22. Although the team still has theoretical hope of advancing to the playoffs, the team's boss Michael Reed and starting point guard TJ Ford have been reimbursed for the season, so the Bucks management has decided to give up this season. The team's next plan is to lose and lower the team's ranking and strive to get a high draft pick in the 2005 draft. In addition, Mo Williams, who has emerged this season, is also a major discovery of the Bucks, and training him has become one of the team's tasks. If the team can successfully renew the contract with the team's boss Michael Reed in the summer, the Bucks management is looking forward to the backcourt combination of Mo Williams and Michael Reed. In this game, Kobe once again scored 34 points. The recent continuous scoring has made Kobe infinitely close to Iverson in terms of data. In the sprint stage of the season, in addition to the team's record, Kobe is also ready for his first scoring champion in his career. Compared to the scoring champion, Killian thinks that the first team is more valuable. At least it can prove that you are one of the 2 best players in the same position. But Kobe doesn't seem to think so. Maybe this is the difference between the coach and the player? On March 10th, the Lakers lost to the Bulls 100-115 on the road, and their 3-game winning streak was ended. 41-23. This season is a year of change in the NBA. Young coaches such as McMillan, Killian, and Mike Brown emerged. The Supersonics rose, the Lakers soared in the second half, and the Cavaliers got rid of the situation of being the bottom of the league for many years. Skiles also added his own strength to the magic of the NBA this year. He personally participated in the reconstruction of the Bulls and finally helped the Bulls to enter the playoffs again this season since Jordan left. The team is currently ranked 4th in the Eastern Conference. The team's number 1 position is the floor-flowing point guard Hinrich, who is responsible for controlling the team's rhythm and connecting the team's offense. Hinrich also has a good shot and can help the team open up space. The big shooter Piatkowski, the most accurate man of the Bulls, was in the scoring position. Luol Deng, the small forward, was good at both offense and defense, with excellent off-ball movement and a very accurate mid-range shot. Chandler and Eddie Curry in the interior were a perfect match, one attacking and one defending. The real dominator of the game was the Bulls' 6th man Ben Gordon. This season's 3rd overall pick is an out-and-out 6th man. He is used to scoring when he is full of blood, and his outside shooting is accurate. In this game, the Lakers were crushed by his continuous 3-point shooting. Throughout the game, he shot 9 times from outside the 3-point line and hit 6 balls. At least half of them were blocked by the Lakers defense, but he was still able to shoot the ball unreasonably. If it were in a game, this would be called a system game. Catch up with Ben Gordon's touch today, not to mention the Lakers, even the Spurs would have a hard time. After the away trip, Killian returned to Los Angeles with the team, and the team will have 3 days of rest. Hamblin arranged training for the players. The Lakers' training intensity was moderate, and training to death was not suitable for the Lakers. During the holiday, Killian would of course spend it with his girlfriend. In the past, he was alone and devoted himself to basketball, but now it was different. He had a girlfriend, and life should have more flavor. What's more, the previous rewards for 3 consecutive wins and 5 consecutive wins should be taken back. On the way to school, Killian specially prepared gifts and waited for Wang Lifan at the door of the classroom. Lakers head coach Kimmy appeared in the school, attracting students who came and went to look back frequently and pay attention to this Los Angeles celebrity. Wang Lifan finished class and walked out of the classroom. Seeing Killian so high profile, he smiled unconsciously. Amid the teasing of classmates, he took Killian's arm and followed Killian to the restaurant happily. Along the way, people inevitably saluted them. Kellyanne was used to it, but Wang Liffen was baptized by the eyes, and he was really a little uncomfortable for a while. There were not many people in the restaurant at this time. It was empty, but the scenery outside the restaurant was quite beautiful. The two of them each carried their plates out of the restaurant and chose to eat outdoors. Has the Lackers not talked to you about becoming a regular employee yet? Wang Liffen asked with concern. No, Kellyanne smiled bitterly. Are you afraid that I will go somewhere else and have a long distance relationship with you? I don't. Wang Liffen immediately denied it, and after thinking about it, he asked again, do you have a place you want to go? I don't know. Anyway, according to the media hype, many teams want me to go there, thinking that I'm handsome and can attract female fans by standing on the sidelines. Kellyanne deliberately used self-praise to downplay the disadvantage between the lines, so that Wang Liffen would not worry about this matter. TSK Wang Liffen rolled his eyes, but there was still a little unhappiness between his eyebrows. If it doesn't work, I'll consider the Clippers, so that I won't be in a long-distance relationship with you, Kellyanne said with a casual look. You can't let me influence your decision. Wang Liffen suddenly said seriously, the most important thing for people is to find their own world. Only when you find your own world, life will be meaningful. Kellyanne, I think basketball is the world that truly belongs to you. Kellyanne grabbed Wang Liffen's hand. You exist in my world, so how could I not consider you? Wang Liffen was a little confused by Kellyanne's sudden confession, and then showed a reproachful expression. I'm talking to you seriously, don't worry. I know my limits, maybe I can still wait for the Lackers contract. After dinner, Kellyanne suggested taking a walk. Wang Liffen said he wanted to borrow books from the library, and the three of them strolled on the stone road from the restaurant to the library. It was the first time for Kellyanne to walk on campus holding his girlfriend's hand, and he felt a little throbbing. Kellyanne was happy, and Guo Rubin, who was wearing a black formal suit, walked over in a hurry. When he saw Kellyanne, he showed joy. Hello, Kellyanne. Hello, Mr. Guo. Are you here to see me? Yes. Guo Rubin said seriously. Can we find a place to talk? It was probably because the advertising endorsement had taken a turn for the better. Kellyanne was secretly happy and agreed. I'll go to the library to borrow books, and I'll contact you then. Seeing that Kellyanne had something to discuss, Wang Liffen took the initiative to make room. After the last negotiation failed, Guo Rubin did not return to China immediately, but commissioned the company's publicity department to re-evaluate Kellyanne's popularity, national recognition, and future prospects, and repriced. In the end, he came up with a 50% increase on the original basis, that is, a basic fee of $300,000 plus an additional fee of $150,000, a total of $450,000. You don't need to worry too much, we are very sincere in cooperating with you. Guo Rubin said, if the advertising effect is good, we will give priority to negotiating the subsequent contract for the endorsement transfer with you. Guo Rubin said seriously. In fact, it was not only Nessel who did his homework. Kellyanne also learned about the domestic advertising endorsement market through HEB. The She-Girl Group is almost considered a first-tier star in China, but the endorsement fee is about $5 million for 2 years. The company has to take most of it, and the rest is shared by 3 people. In contrast, Kellyanne can get most of the $450,000 tax, and it will only be for half a year at most. Don't be too envious of HEB. The data given by HEB also gave Kellyanne a new understanding of the market situation of domestic advertising endorsements. Except for Yao Ming and Liu Ziyang, the endorsement fees of others are not at the same level as them. Nessel's offer is indeed sincere, so he did not refuse it again. The specific shooting time of the advertisement will be negotiated later. At that time, a production team will come to Los Angeles to shoot. Anyway, the time arrangement will completely accommodate Kellyanne. After a 3-day rest, the Lackers played against the Timberwolves, who ranked 9th in the West and were fighting hard for a playoff spot. At the beginning of the game, the Timberwolves performed well. Garnett pulled to the high position to contain the Lackers' defense. Castle, who had been slacking for half a season, woke up in the second half of the season and showed his all-star level last season to help the team attack the playoffs. For a 36-year-old veteran, Helping the team to enter the playoffs is the capital to negotiate a contract in the summer. Otherwise he will be eliminated by the league. Castle worked hard for the last contract, while family breadwinner Sproul completely started after rejecting the team's middle-class contract. The Timberwolves' three-headed monster was missing a corner, and Zerbiak couldn't make it. Castle and Garnett's outstanding performance only helped the team lead by 2 points in the first quarter, 25-27. In the second quarter, the Lakers began to exert their strength. Butler served as the arrow of the rotation. Lanoop, Finley, Barnes, and House opened up on the outside. Anderson was responsible for side screens, and then cut to grab front court rebounds. On the Timberwolves side, once Garnett left the court, the defense could not withstand the impact of the Lakers, and the weak lead was quickly overtaken. The Timberwolves still had no way to reverse the situation after the return of the main Lanoop. The 36-year-old Castle could no longer maintain his outstanding performance for a long time like last season. The rhythm was led by the Lakers into a mutual stabbing game. Although the veteran guaranteed efficiency, his physical strength could not stand it. The team leader Garnett has always been a relatively poor attack among superstars. When he needs to score to bite the opponent to death in a stalemate, Garnett is not able to hold on most of the time. The Lakers played a wave of 36-20 in the second quarter, and the score difference was widened to 14 points in one fell swoop. In the third quarter, Kobe, who was aiming to be the scoring champion, blew up the Timberwolves' outside line. Zerbiak is a white player who is good at static confrontation, but his movement speed is average, and he suffers a significant loss against Kobe. Sproul was one of the Kobe killers last season, but this season he has shown his old age on the defensive end. Even if there is no contract dispute with the team, it is difficult to limit the unsealed Kobe. The Lakers further widened the gap, and the score was 89-71 at the end of the third quarter. In the last quarter, Kellyan deliberately let Kobe play more and gave him more shooting rights. Although the team's offensive efficiency declined, allowing the Timberwolves to recover some points, it did not hinder the team's victory. In the end, the Lakers defeated the Timberwolves 121-109, 42-23. In the whole game, Kobe made 14 of 30 shots, 3 of 9 3-pointers, and 6 of 6 free throws, scoring 37 points, averaging 30.5 points per game, surpassing Iverson and temporarily sitting on the position of scoring champion. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.